My best friend is as calm as a chrysanthemum, cherishing only her freedom after getting pregnant with the tycoon's child. She was determined to run away with the baby. I tried to persuade her to stay, but she said coldly, "I refuse to be a man's plaything. Without freedom, I'd rather die." But she didn't understand the hardships of being a single mother, nor did she know that real-life tycoons don't chase their wives to the grave. In my previous life, I couldn't bear to see her suffer, so I earnestly persuaded her to stay. The president also gave her a title without hesitation, yet even as a wealthy lady, she still felt like a caged bird without freedom, attempting suicide in various dramatic ways every day. In the end, she set the villa ablaze. Amidst the raging inferno, she was rescued unscathed, yet I became the innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my best friend decided to run away while pregnant. Yara, don't try to persuade me. I'm definitely leaving. I don't want to be Hadrian's caged bird. It's not freedom at all. I'm going abroad to have the baby on my own. Outside the hospital, my best friend Vian and I stood facing each other. She looked down, gently touching her still flat stomach. Her gaze was cool and distant, her demeanor as serene as a chrysanthemum. Just moments ago, the doctor had confirmed she was 3 months pregnant. The baby is my boss's. She could have easily married into a wealthy family with this child, but her first thought was to run away with a baby bump. Whether in my past life or this one, I've never been able to understand her thought process. Wouldn't it be nice to live in luxury by the side of a powerful CEO? Why go through hardships abroad when you don't have to? She was gentle and unassertive by nature, making it incredibly difficult for her to live abroad alone. What's more, she had no passport, no visa, and didn't speak a word of a foreign language, even basic survival was a serious concern. In my past life, when I laid out all these problems for her, it only provoked her stubborn streak. There's always a way. I've contacted some people who have connections to get me out of the country. I can support myself by working abroad. People like you, who chase fame and fortune, will never understand. I'd rather die abroad than live as his caged pet, freedom or death. In my previous life, I was exasperated by her otherworldly demeanor. I nearly wore my tongue out trying to persuade her to stay by Hadrian's side, unwilling to let her suffer any indignity. Hadrian married her into his wealthy family without a second thought. After she gave birth, Hadrian even put his corporate affairs on hold, devoting himself entirely to her and their child. For a long time, to outsiders, her life seemed like a fairy tale. Little did anyone know, she was utterly unsatisfied. Every day is spent wallowing in melancholy, complaining everywhere about a lack of freedom. With nothing better to do, they start finding creative ways to self-destruct, risk-cutting, swallowing sleeping pills, jumping from buildings. Yet each time, they were saved and brought back. Then one evening, she suddenly pestered me to make her something delicious. While I was preparing a nutritious meal for her in the villa, she set the house on fire. After the rescue team arrived, they got her out first. I was trapped in the nutrition room on the 3rd floor. A burning piece of the ceiling crashed down on my head, and I blacked out. Later, my spirit drifted in the air, and I saw Vian sitting in a safe spot, looking utterly world-weary. When the firefighters asked if anyone else was in the house, she remained silent, as if she had no attachment to this world left. She knew perfectly well that I was inside. If she had just said a word to the firefighters, they would have come to rescue me right away, but she didn't. She just stood there and watched as the firefighters fought the fire. Floor by floor. By the time they found me, I had already been reduced to ashes. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to this moment. "Yara, why aren't you saying anything?" Vian waved her hand in front of my eyes, eagerly waiting for my response. The suffocating smoke from the memory seemed to still be creeping down my throat. I took a deep breath, struggling to steady my emotions. Since she loves freedom so much, fine, this time I won't interfere. I looked at her, speaking each word deliberately. "You are in charge of your own life, and I can't make decisions for you. I knew you wouldn't understand." "What?" Vian paused, a flicker of surprise crossing her cool eyes, the accusation stuck in her throat, neither coming out nor going down. "You're not going to talk me out of it?" I couldn't help but chuckle. "Why would I bother? You have your own feet. If you want to leave, can I really stop you? Go ahead, Vian. I'd also like to see how someone who didn't even finish high school manages to make a name for themselves abroad, too. By the way, when are you planning to leave? Hadrian should be back from his business trip in 3 days. If she doesn't run now, it will be too late." She raised her chin, her gaze cool. "No rush. I need to prepare first." When Vian said she was getting ready, what she really meant was clearing out every single one of her belongings from the villa. However, she deliberately left a few of her own intimate garments behind. These items of clothing were casually scattered in various spots throughout the villa, places like a corner of the study, the entrance to the dressing room, and the gym, anywhere within easy reach for Hadrian. Such subtle arrangements seemed designed to make Hadrian think of her every day. "It's all taken care of. There might be a few things I missed, and Hadrian will probably just throw them away when he sees them." Vian's gaze was calm. showing a complete lack of concern. Finally, the day before Hadrian was due to return, Vianne left for the harbor. It turned out that her so-called way of going abroad was actually smuggling. I was completely stunned when I found out the truth. She only carried a small, exquisite suitcase, wearing a white floral dress, standing at the dock waving goodbye to me. The scene was so beautiful it felt like a scene from a romantic drama. In the next moment, a burly man with his shirt off stumbled into the frame. Tisk, dressed so fancy to squeeze into a container with us, that broken box is stuffy and stinky, not something just anyone can endure. Vianne raised her chin even higher, her voice crisp and clear. What's a little hardship for the sake of freedom? The rough guy rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath, trying to be free after sneaking out. You must be out of your mind. Indeed, by going abroad through such an unspoken channel, Vianne was destined to live like a rat scurrying through the streets, but it was clear she had no idea what her future held. As she even threw away her last card before leaving, take this supplementary card and return it to Hadrian for me. And make sure you tell him, a free spirit cannot be bought. Before she could finish, I snatched the card from her hand to cut the lecture short. The ship's about to depart. Say whatever else you need to over the phone. Vianne's hand froze midair. She stared, bewildered, at her now empty fingers, then looked up at me, her expression momentarily stiff. She'd never have imagined I'd take the card so readily in the past. Afraid she'd have a hard time, I would have begged her to keep it safe. She offered a strained smile. So, I'm really leaving. She kept looking back with every few steps she took. I ignored her melodramatics, turned, and made a quick getaway. My steps hurried, afraid she might give chase. The next day, Hadrian returned home from his business trip. As usual, I prepared a nutritious meal for him. I also mentioned Vianne's departure in passing. Hadrian quietly ate his nutritious meal, showing little reaction. In his previous life, when Hadrian learned that Vianne was pregnant, he immediately brought her home to meet his parents and gave her a formal status. This time, knowing that Vianne had left, he did not insist. This is Hadrian, the women who follow him. He showers them with money and is very generous. If you want to leave, he won't even bat an eye. As Hadrian's private nutritionist for 5 years, I've long understood his temperament, but Vianne just couldn't grasp this. 3. The intimate garments Vianne left behind were all sorted out and discarded by the housekeeper. Within 2 days, the limited edition silk nightgown she left was something the housekeeper didn't dare to dispose of on her own, so she brought it to Hadrian for instructions. Hadrian was reviewing documents and didn't even look up unnecessary things, just throw them away. Hadrian showed no sentimentality at all. Vianne's little schemes were ruthlessly discarded by her aunt. A few days later, a new face appeared by Hadrian's side. This girl is called Solaria, lively and cheerful, the complete opposite of Vianne. She loves to talk, following Hadrian everywhere, never stopping. Despite being someone who loves peace and quiet, Hadrian never found her annoying. In his previous life, Hadrian wasn't nearly as tolerant of Vianne. I couldn't help but ship the couple. Vianne's international call came through at that moment. Yara, how's Hadrian? He must be frantic looking for me, right? You must keep it a secret and don't tell him where I am. I glanced at Hadrian in the living room, laughing along with Solaria, and told the truth. Don't worry, he's busy flirting with another woman. He has no time for you. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the line, followed by a soft chuckle. I've only been gone a week, and he's already scrambling to find a replacement. Before I could answer, she continued, where does that girl resemble me? In her eyebrows and eyes, or in her smile? Hadrian is just after something new. He'll get bored within 3 days. I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I gave a perfunctory reply. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Only then did she hang up the phone, thoroughly satisfied. Yet 3 days passed, then another 3, and Solaria was still coming and going from the villa. She'd even had the curtains in the master bedroom changed to a style she preferred. The last trace of Vianne was completely covered by the bright colors. When Vianne called again, I was preparing afternoon tea for Hadrian and Solaria. Solaria's laughter bubbled through the receiver. Vianne paused, her tone slightly tense, though not easily noticed. That stand-in hasn't left yet. I got a bit nervous too. Wouldn't Vianne suddenly change her mind and return to compete for favor? Hadrian thinks using another woman to provoke me will force me to return. How childish. I was born a free eagle. I could never be like other women, breaking my wings just to circle around him. Phew. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. I thought Vianne had gotten smarter, but I didn't expect her to still be so self-righteous. My heart settled back into place. I wouldn't tell her that Solaria isn't just a stand-in, but Hadrian's first love. I only found out recently Solaria and Hadrian dated in college but were forced to break up due to their mismatched backgrounds. The family sent Solaria abroad to study. The two were apart for 7 years in her previous life. By the time Solaria returned home, Hadrian had already married Vianne out of a sense of duty. He always kept his distance from Solaria. Solaria, being someone with strong personal boundaries herself, meant there was never any hint of impropriety between them in this life, without Vianne standing in their way. I believe the two of them will reconcile very soon. Vianne, completely oblivious to all of this, stubbornly clings to the belief that Hadrian is meant for her and her alone. Her tone remained calm, yet carried an inexplicable confidence. Tell that stand-in not to get any ideas about climbing her way up to Hadrian. I don't mean anything by it. It's just that, as a fellow woman, I can't help but feel a little sorry for her. What's the point of being someone's stand-in? She'd be better off getting out now before she gets hurt. For I contacted my classmate who runs a restaurant abroad and asked her to keep an eye on Vianne's movements for me. She's in the country illegally, without a green card. With her qualifications, the only job she can get is washing dishes in a Chinese restaurant. The Chinese community is interconnected. As soon as Vianne steps into any Chinese restaurant, word of her will reach my ears. Before Hadrian and Solaria can make it work, I need to keep Vianne here as long as possible to prevent her from returning and disrupting them. For the next few days, Vianne didn't contact me again. She's busy posting 9-grid photos on Moments, sharing her daily life abroad. She has always dreamed of going abroad since she was a child, thinking the moon is rounder. Their mutual friends are commenting with expressions of envy. Is Vianne working abroad now? Just getting started. What kind of job is it? In the food and beverage industry. Wow, you must be running a restaurant overseas. I'll visit you when I have the chance. Oh, it's nothing, just messing around, she responded evasively, her tone as humble as ever, but now, I can clearly sense her vanity. Soon after, a classmate from abroad brought me the latest news about Vianne. Her tone was utterly incredulous. Is that friend of yours really the one you grew up with in the orphanage? She's so clumsy, can't even wash a dish properly. In less than a month, she's been fired from several shops. At this point, I doubt anyone would dare hire her. Just as expected, it's true we grew up together in the orphanage, but she was never one for physical exertion, always serene and detached like a chrysanthemum. I ended up worrying about and handling everything for her. The first half of her life was virtually untouched by hardship. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say she was raised like a pampered young lady. So in my previous life, I tried everything to stop her from running away with the child. I knew she couldn't handle hardship. Without me and Hadrian, her life would fall apart. As expected, everything unfolded just as I had foreseen. My classmate was kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see Vianne on the streets, so she offered her a job at her restaurant. I hired her as a waitress at my shop. After all, she's your childhood friend. And she's 6 months pregnant. If I didn't take her in, she probably wouldn't be able to survive here. Being a waitress is much easier than washing dishes in the kitchen, and you can also get tips. I have no objections, but I still gave her a piece of advice. Remember, don't ever let on that we know each other. In this new life, I finally see Vianne clearly. She always betrays her own people. If she knew the boss was my classmate, who knows what kind of trouble she'd cause. Meanwhile, Hadrian and Solaria's relationship is gradually developing, but it's way too slow. It's been over a month, and they're still just holding hands, never taking it to the next level. They're not in a hurry, but I am. So, on a dark and windy night, I prepared a warm and romantic candlelit dinner for the two of them. Perhaps it was the alcohol, or maybe the moonlight that night was just too enchanting. Solaria was dragged into the bedroom by Hadrian that night and didn't come out the entire time, so the couple I ship finally took the plunge. 5. After Hadrian and Solaria reconciled, they planned a vacation abroad. Solaria said she wanted to revisit the city where she studied, to show Hadrian all the places she used to go. As their personal nutritionist, I naturally went along with them. A former classmate of mine, who knew I was on a business trip in the country where she runs her shop, warmly invited me to stop by. I just happened to have the same plan. I've heard that Vianne has been working at her shop and has matured a lot. I'd like to see for myself how she's changed. I arrived just after the peak dining hour. The shop was pretty quiet, with only a few scattered tables occupied. Among the service staff, I spotted Vianne, dressed in a red staff uniform. She moved through the restaurant aisles. Despite working in service, her face maintained a faint, aloof expression that was just like her. No matter where she was or how down on her luck, she always had to set herself apart. She had gotten darker and thinner. Although 6 months pregnant, her belly wasn't very prominent. She saw me too, but before we could even greet each other, a table of customers suddenly asked for the bill. Vianne was busy attending to the customers, and she looked quite the part. As the customer was leaving, they handed her a $50 tip, and a flicker of surprise flashed in her eyes. I was just about to muse that she had finally matured and learned to bow to life's realities. To my surprise, she suddenly glanced in my direction, and her expression shifted from that initial surprised to the familiar aloofness I knew so well. Sir, I appreciate the gesture, but I must decline. I may just be a server, but I have my principles. I don't care for money. I value my freedom. Please don't insult my beliefs with money. Your approach is truly terrible. The Chinese-American customer was utterly bewildered. He never expected that simply leaving a normal tip would result in a lecture from the server. The girl accompanying the guest couldn't stand it any longer and sneered. Stop acting so high and mighty. I've seen plenty of girls like you. You package yourself as different just to get male attention. My friend might not see through your act, but I grew up back home. I know all these little games you're playing. A word of sincere advice. Spare us the embarrassment and stay home next time. Her words held no mercy, leaving Vianne's cheeks flushed with anger, yet she maintained her aloof and unbothered persona, saying coolly, "The innocent need no defense, and I find myself at a loss for words." The foreign onlookers, naturally unaware of the nuances of the Chinese language, all stared at Vianne as if watching a spectacle. Growing uncomfortable under their gaze, she turned to me, her eyes pleading for me to clear her name. I pretended not to catch her drift and turned to chat with the cashier instead. Has Ms. Vianne always been so disdainful of money? The cashier looked puzzled. No. She's usually very eager to accept tips. What's gotten into her today? Oh, I see, so it was all an act for my benefit. In her previous life, she always loved putting on the act of being a refined and modest woman. With my cooperation, she not only reaped many benefits but also gained a good reputation. I, on the other hand, became the vulgar shrew in others' eyes. Therefore, as soon as I appeared, she instinctively started acting, trying to gain some more benefits again. But because I didn't play along with her little act, she botched the whole performance. She didn't get what she wanted and ended up being thoroughly humiliated. After the guests left, she confronted me angrily. "Why didn't you back me up? You know I'm not one for drama or fighting for attention, so why did you just let them misunderstand me?" I shot back. "You're the one who always says the truth will out and then explanations are pointless. Besides, if you don't want people to misunderstand you, then find a way to prove yourself." She was left completely speechless. "Yara, don't you forget, if I hadn't saved you when we were kids, you'd be dead." 6. When we were kids playing hide-and-seek, I hid in the kitchen and accidentally fell asleep, nearly succumbing to carbon monoxide poisoning. She came into the kitchen looking for a snack, found me, and called for help, saving my life. So, in my previous life, I remembered her kindness and helped her wholeheartedly. However, it was she who ultimately caused my demise. Thinking of the misery of my past life, my gaze grew colder. Vianne rarely received such indifference from me. Don't you forget, I am the lady of the Hua family. You're able to stay by Hadrian's side only because of my grace. I can have Hadrian fire you at any moment. I think you should focus on keeping your own job first. The night was quiet, with only the rustling of leaves and the distant hum of the city breaking the silence. She pulled something like this, and my friend isn't stupid. There's no way he's keeping her around. After my friend apologized to the guest and dealt with the whole fiasco, he came over to us. Vianne clung to his arm with exaggerated sweetness. "Boss, you must have seen my potential when you hired me. You wouldn't fire me, right?" My friend deftly extricated himself and walked over to me. "Sorry about that. Class monitor, you had to see that whole embarrassing scene." Vianne gasped. "You know each other," my classmate said. "Know each other? She's not just anyone. She's my class monitor and my idol. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have hired someone as troublesome as you." Only then did she feel afraid. I told my classmate not to consider my feelings and handle it normally. Vianne was fired on the spot. Instead of reflecting on her own actions, she pinned all the blame on me. I never imagined that the person I trusted most would stab me in the back. "You've let me down so much. Did you think I'd never come back? Is that why you dared to treat me this way? Just wait until I give birth to Hadrian's child. You'll regret the day you ever crossed me." With that, she stormed off, leaving behind a proud and unyielding silhouette. We had been abroad for a month. On the day we returned home, Solaria couldn't stop vomiting. The doctor's test results showed she was over a month pregnant. It happened on the very first time they were together. I deserve some credit for that. They were moved to tears, and I was even more touched than they were. They teased me, saying, "Anyone would think it's your baby she's carrying. You have no idea how thrilled I am with Solaria pregnant. Hadrian is bound to marry her, and Solaria's personality is just wonderful, like a little sun, brightening the lives of everyone around her." I've never been this happy with Vianne in my previous life. Hadrian lived up to expectations and brought Solaria home to meet his parents that very day. The couple planned to get married first, and then hold a wedding ceremony after the baby was born. Solaria is pregnant. She has a very sweet temper, nothing like Vianne, who was so difficult to please. In Her last life, Vian had a terrible temper when she was pregnant. She was utterly restless and constantly threatening to kill herself. I almost developed prenatal depression because of it. Solaria is simply a little angel, waiting obediently every day for me to feed her. A year later, she gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, 7. The full moon banquet for Hadrian and Solaria's twins was held at the most prestigious Peninsula Hotel in the city. In her previous life, when Vian gave birth, Hadrian wanted to throw a grand celebration, but Vian found the banquet hall tacky and unworthy of her cool and low-key persona, forcing the cancellation of the full moon party, making the Wu family the laughingstock. In this life, Solaria stands gracefully by Hadrian's side, indulging in the ultimate luxury. Solaria looked radiant in her custom-made red gown, her every gesture exuding the effortless grace of true high society. Thanks to my meticulous care, she has made an excellent recovery. Postpartum, as Solaria's chief nutritionist during her pregnancy and after childbirth, I was honored with a seat at the head table. Witnessing the scene of such warm and joyful harmony filled me with immense satisfaction. Just then, my phone vibrated. Vian, who had been out of sight for over a year, suddenly updated her moments. The photo was a post shot at the airport. She wore a faded long dress and held a little boy in her arms. Caption: at my lowest point, I was betrayed by the friend I trusted most. No, I return home with a triumphant spirit, carrying the gift fate has given me. What I lost, I will reclaim with my own hands. What is mine, no one can take. The slap in the face begins. A group of uninformed mutual friends are still chiming in below. Oh my god, Vian, you're finally back. Is this child Hadrian's eldest son? Of course. The pregnant runaway wife is finally returning to tear apart her green tea best friend. So intense, I knew Vian, with her ethereal grace, would never be mistreated by fate. Watching these comments, I almost spat out the champagne in my mouth from laughing. Vian is back. Does she really think she's the leading lady with a halo in a romance novel, returning to dazzle everyone? Yara, what are you laughing at? Solaria leaned over, curious. I handed her my phone. Solaria raised an eyebrow, not angry but rather amused. Well, if it isn't the legendary Miss Vian, she of Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death fame, choosing to return on this particular day. I see you've come for my full moon celebration. Have you cleared it with security? Don't worry, not even a fly is getting in here today. Half an hour later, the hotel manager ran up, sweating profusely, and whispered a few words into Hadrian's ear. Hadrian listened without so much as a furrowed brow and said calmly, treat this as a disturbance, get them out. Solaria and I exchanged a glance and stood up in perfect sync. We're getting bored up here anyway, let's go downstairs and see this queen who's made such a grand return. Down in the hotel lobby, a farcical scene was unfolding. Vian was being firmly held back by 4 or 5 burly security guards at the gate. She still dressed in that aloof and proud manner, with a bare face and her hair casually tied up. She tried to create an aura of purity amidst chaos. The little boy in her arms was scared to tears by the commotion around them. The contrast is too stark. In my previous life, I, as a top nutritionist, meticulously took care of her meals 3 times a day. Not only did Vian recover exceptionally well postpartum, but her son was also fair, plump, and exceptionally intelligent. That child exhibited astonishing memory at the age of 3, truly a genius baby, and was cherished like a treasure by the Wu family patriarch. But look at him now. The child was dark and thin, with brittle, straw-like hair, and stood a full head shorter than other children his age. He huddled in Vian's arms, his gaze timid and unfocused, like a quail frightened out of its wits. Vian lifted her chin, her expression as aloof and detached as ever, yet, paired with her rough skin and the child's timid whimpering, it only appeared utterly absurd. How dare you? Do you know who I am? Do you know who the child I'm holding is? Vian raised her chin high, her gaze cold as she surveyed the surrounding security and the guests who had stopped to watch. Go tell Hadrian that his eldest son has returned. Let him come out to see me personally. If it weren't for the child, someone like me who seeks spiritual freedom would absolutely disdain setting foot in a place like this, filled with the stench of money. The gathered socialites and ladies of high society watched her as if she were a circus act, whispering behind their hands, who is this woman? Did she escape from a mental institution? His eldest son? Don't be absurd. Everyone in the city knows Hadrian is celebrating his twins' 1-month-old party today. Where did this lunatic come from, trying to cause a scene, dressed like a beggar, and she has the nerve to complain about the stench of money here? How laughable. Surrounded by undisguised mockery, Vian's composed facade finally cracked, her face flushing with alternating waves of pallor and color. She gritted her teeth, struggling to maintain her composure. Hadrian, do you really think marrying that stand-in can hide the fact that you love me? 8. A substitute. Solaria walked out gracefully, holding my arm. Her appearance instantly overshadowed Vian. The confidence and opulence radiating from Solaria made Vian instinctively squint. Vian stared intently at Solaria, her gaze swept back and forth across Solaria's radiant face, searching for any resemblance to herself. In her previous life, she had always believed Solaria was her substitute, but now, standing face to face, even a blind person could see that Solaria's features were bold and striking. While Vian was merely delicate and plain, there's absolutely no resemblance between them, but Vian's narcissism runs deep. She desperately tries to save face, letting out a cold snort. You must be Solaria. No amount of fancy dressing can hide the fact that you're just a substitute. Hadrian's just after something new. What he truly loves is a soul like mine, unmoved by fame or fortune. Don't you find it pathetic, living in my shadow every single day? Solaria was doubled over with laughter at her outrageous remark. Mess, Vian, it's a shame you don't put that imagination of yours to use writing novels. Hadrian and I got together in college. We were together for 7 years. We broke up amicably when I went abroad to study. By rights of seniority, I was his first love, and as for looks, someone as plain and insipid as you dares to think I could be your stand-in. I think it's you who's stolen my clothes. Wearing them doesn't actually make you a society lady, you know. The words landed like a stinging slap across Vian's face. A wave of derisive laughter immediately erupted around them, so that's why his first love came back. No wonder Hadrian suddenly settled down. This woman is too hilarious, treating someone's real first love as a substitute. What a nerve. Vian was struck dumb, frozen in place, her face as pale as paper. She looked at me in disbelief, as if seeking confirmation of the truth in Solaria's words. I coldly watched her, not missing the instant collapse of faith in her eyes. The elusive, pure image she had painstakingly crafted shattered into nothingness in the face of reality and truth. It's impossible. This can't be. You're lying to me. Vian suddenly went into a hysterical frenzy. If that's the case, then why was he so good to me in the beginning? Why did he buy me a villa? Why did he keep me trapped by his side all this time? Because I have money. Hadrian's low, icy voice came from behind. He strode over to Solaria's side, considerately wrapping an arm around his wife's waist, without sparing Vian so much as a single glance. I pay my nanny the highest salary in the industry, Miss Vian. As a restless canary I once kept, I don't mind spending a little money on you, but do you have some misunderstanding about your position? A canary. Vian trembled all over, her eyes red with tears. She pinched the child hard. The child let out a heart-wrenching cry. Hadrian, you can humiliate me, but you can't deny your own flesh and blood. This is your firstborn. Are you really going to let him wander aimlessly? Ridiculed by others, I endured so much hardship giving birth to him alone abroad, and today you must give me an explanation. She thought that as long as she brought up the child, Hadrian would surely feel guilty, just like in the novels, and stage a dramatic pursuit of her. She was even prepared to play hard to get, but would reluctantly stay if Hadrian asked her to. However, Hadrian looked at the child with snot and tears all over his face, his eyes showing no sympathy, only deep disgust. That day you fled the country. It was over between us. 9. The moment those words were spoken, the room erupted in an uproar. Fled the country illegally. My God, is this woman really an undocumented immigrant? How disgusting. How dare someone with that kind of background cause a scene at Hadrian's full moon celebration? Vian's face flushed a deep, purplish red, and she shrieked in retort, that's for the pursuit of freedom. What do you corrupted mortals know about money? I am clean, Yara. Speak up, you were the one who saw me board the ship. She finally remembered me and tried to get me to testify. I slowly stepped forward, watching her in her frantic state, and felt an immense sense of satisfaction. Yes, I saw you board the ship, and I saw you get fired on the spot by my classmate from that overseas Chinese restaurant, for being light-fingered and stealing tips and belongings from customers. Vian, is this your idea of freedom, living like a sewer rat abroad, hiding in the shadows, surviving on theft? Every word I spoke was a carefully aimed dart, laying bare every last one of her dirty little secrets from her time overseas. The surrounding whispers grew louder, a chorus of pointed insults and scorn. You're slandering me, Yara. You're just jealous, you ungrateful wretch. If I hadn't saved you when we were kids, shut up, I've repaid that measly debt of gratitude. The moment you chose to run off with the baby, we stopped being friends. Seeing the tide had turned against her, Vian finally abandoned her last shred of ridiculous pride and dropped to her knees with a thud. Hadrian, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Life abroad is too hard. I simply can't survive. I don't care about status anymore. Just give me the money, 50 million. No, 30 million. I'll take the child and leave immediately, and you'll never see us again. The true colors are finally showing. All that talk of being refined as a chrysanthemum and liberty or death, confronted with The harsh reality, her true colors were finally revealed. She turned into a money-grubbing shrew who would grovel for cash. This is the real Vian. Hadrian kicked her away in disgust as his lead lawyer stepped forward, briefcase in hand. Ms. Vian, in light of your extortion attempt today, the entire interaction has been audio and video recorded. The lawyer adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his voice devoid of any warmth. As for the child, Hadrian will cooperate with a DNA paternity test, if the child is indeed Hadrian's. Out of humanitarian considerations, the Hu family will establish a bare minimum subsistence trust fund. It will cover only the child's tuition at public schools and basic medical expenses. However, I must remind you that this fund will be strictly managed by a third-party trustee until the child comes of age, and you won't get a single cent. Vian was utterly dumbstruck. Even forgetting to cry, not a single penny for me, then what am I supposed to raise him on? No way, you have to give me the money. Furthermore, given your history of illegal departure from the country, the means and identity of your current return are highly questionable. As a law-abiding citizen, Hadrian has already reported you to the police. As soon as the words were spoken, the wail of police sirens erupted outside the hotel lobby. Several uniformed police officers strode into the hotel, flashing their badges. Is this Vian? Please come with us to assist with the investigation. The cold handcuffs clamped onto Vian's wrists. In that moment, the light in her eyes was completely extinguished, and she collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud. No, I'm the real Mrs. Hu. I'm the one who should be Mrs. Hu. I'd like to see anyone try to lay a finger on me. Vian struggled frantically. 5 years later, I am no longer the private nutritionist who could only rely on the Hu family. Over the past 5 years, I have founded my own high-end health management studio, thanks to my solid professional expertise in solarias connections within high society circles. My studio has rapidly become the city's premier health and wellness center. I've purchased a 200 square meter luxury apartment in the city center, drive a $1 million sports car, and have achieved true financial independence and personal freedom. As for Vian, due to the severity of her initial smuggling offense and the attempted extortion, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Since the child was indeed Hadrian's flesh and blood, the Hu family sent him to a fully enclosed boarding school for strict education and discipline. The Hu family stripped Vian of her visitation rights, leaving her utterly isolated and alone. She had no formal education and carried a criminal record. The once delicate fairy who couldn't even wash a plate properly now struggles to navigate the harsh realities of society. One deep autumn evening, I had just finished a meeting with a female CEO of a multinational company and was driving past a snack street in the urban village. The thunderous curses coming from a greasy, fly-infested eatery on the street caught my attention. Are you blind or what? You can't even carry a guest soup properly. Did I hire you to ruin my business? You can't even wash dishes or carry plates properly. What can you do? Today's 50 yuan meal fee will be deducted from your salary. A burly boss lady was shouting curses, pointing her finger at a waiter's nose. The waiter had dry, messy, yellowish hair. She was squatting on the ground, frantically picking up shards of broken porcelain, clad in a cheap, pilling sweater. As she picked up the pieces, she yelled at the boss lady in a coarse, raspy voice, "Knock, knock, knock, you heartless boss, how much do you think I make in a day? It's just a broken bowl, I quit if you want." In the moment she stood up, her gaze inadvertently swept over the noisy crowd. Our eyes met as I sat behind the wheel of the Porsche. It was Vian, if not for the faint traces of her younger self still visible in her eyes and brows, I would hardly have recognized her. This was the same Vian who used to declare she'd rather die than live without freedom, who was so determined to go abroad in search of her soul's true meaning. Now wrinkles have crept into the corners of her eyes, leaving only the world-weary cynicism and bitterness. She stared at me intently. Shock, regret, jealousy, and deep-seated inferiority flickered in her eyes. The broken porcelain shard in her hand fell to the ground again, emitting a crisp sound. "How dare you break my bowl? Get out now." The boss lady slapped her on the back. Vian was shoved, stumbling a few steps before falling awkwardly onto the oil-stained street. She no longer shouted about being innocent, nor did she put on her usual haughty demeanor. She just kept her head down, not even daring to look up at me again. She finally got to live the life she had always dreamed of, free from the control of a domineering CEO and the constraints of high society rules. She now possessed absolute freedom. It's just a shame she didn't seem all that happy about it. In this new life, I refused to be anyone's stepping stone. I allowed her to maintain her pride, and in doing so, I embraced my own fresh start. The end. Story 2. My stepsister's idol was the city's top scorer in the National College Entrance Exam. To get close to her idol, my stepsister conned a lot of money from our parents under the guise of paying for tutoring a month. Before the exam, she got her wish and hugged her idol for a photo. She was so obsessed that she believed his scent and exam luck would linger on her, so she decided not to shower for a whole month until after the exams. She had lice crawling all over her, and her hair was greasy and reeked. Sitting behind her was unbearable, so when we got home, I forced her to take a shower. She ended up failing the college entrance exam with only 338 points, while I scored 668. Furious, she pulled out a pile of stinky socks from under the bed and stuffed them into my mouth. The stench was overwhelming. This is all your fault, otherwise, I could have been the top scorer in the city, just like my idol, given a second chance at life. I couldn't care less whether she showers or not. Let's see if she can actually become the top scorer. I died on a sunny June afternoon, to be precise. I was suffocated to death when my half-sister Lola stuffed her month-old stinky socks into my mouth. It's all your fault. Otherwise, I could have been the city's top scorer like my idol. Lola's hysterical screams still echoed in my ears. Her greasy, tangled hair, the grime under her fingernails, and that stench of sweat, grease, and cheap perfume were all seared into my soul along with the agony of suffocation. I snapped my eyes open to find myself standing outside my stepmother Lunaire and Father Kenneth's bedroom, clutching a crumpled score report in my hand. 668 points, my Gaokao score from my previous life. Lola's mock exam scores dropped again, only 350 points. At this rate, how will she ever get into a good university? Lunaire's deliberately hushed voice slipped through the crack in the door. What if we use Sage's college tuition to pay for Lola's tutoring first? Father's words sent a chill down my spine. After all, Sage gets good grades and can apply for student loans. I looked down at the date on my phone, May 8th. 2023, exactly 1 month until the college entrance exams. I had been reborn. Right back to where the tragedy began. Memories flooded back like a tidal wave. In my past life, I got into a top university with a citywide rank in the top 50, while Lola only scored 338. She blamed her failure on me forcing her to take a shower before the exam, washing away the exam luck she claimed to have absorbed from her so-called academic idol. 1. Sage, what are you standing there for? Lunaire suddenly swung the door open, her hand with crimson nail polish nearly poking me in the I instinctively stepped back, the fear and anger accumulated from my past life churning in my chest, but I quickly composed myself. This time around, I won't make the same mistakes again. Mom, Dad, I forced an obedient smile. I just got my mock exam results and wanted to share them with you. Lunaire snatched the score report, glanced at it, and threw it back in my face. 668 points, no need to show off. You'd be better off tutoring your sister with that time. Kenneth didn't even glance at it, just kept scrolling through his contacts. Let me ask an acquaintance if they know any reliable tutors. I quietly picked up the report card, catching a glimpse of Lola's door covered in posters of her idol, Zayn, a young celebrity who rose to fame by marketing his academic genius persona and was last year's top scorer in a city's college entrance exams. Sis Lola suddenly swung the door open, wearing a t-shirt with Zayn's face on it, her hair so greasy it shone. Look, I scored VIP tickets to Zayn's fan meet and greet. She waved a glittering golden ticket printed with special perk, hug and photo. I squinted and noticed the price, 5,000 yuan. Where did you get the money? I asked softly, already knowing the answer in my heart. From Mom and Dad. Lola twirled around proudly. Brother Zayn didn't shower for a whole month before his college entrance exams last year, and that's how he became the top scorer. I'm going to do the same. Absorb some of that academic genius energy. My stomach churned. In my past life, I had strongly opposed this absurd behavior, only to be accused by the whole family of being jealous of my sister. After a heated argument, I dragged Lola to take a shower, and from then on, I became the scapegoat for her failing the college entrance exams. That's great, I heard myself say calmly, wishing you success. Lola froze, clearly not expecting my support. Lunaire also shot me a skeptical look, but I just smiled and turned back to my room. After closing the door, I immediately retrieved an old notebook from my bag's hidden compartment, opened it to a fresh page, and neatly wrote down today's date along with the figure 5,000 yuan. In my past life, I was so naive, thinking that studying hard and being obedient would earn me my family's love. This time around, I'll watch Lola charge headlong down her self-destructive path while gathering every piece of evidence to protect myself. I gently stroked the notebook, the only keepsake my mother left me before she passed away. I remember in my previous life, Lola sold it for spare change to buy idol merchandise without my permission. Lola's shrill laughter pierced through the window. Mom, Zayn is coming to town for a concert next month. I need front row tickets. Buy them. Kenneth's voice cut in without hesitation. As long as you keep your grades up. I let out a cold laugh, fishing out the second-hand phone I'd secretly bought from under my bed and activating the recording function. This time around, I'm going to watch this family get dragged into the abyss, piece by piece, by some unattainable idol and a spoiled man-child, and I, Sage, will climb over their wreckage to claim the brilliant future that's rightfully mine. Sis, look at my hug voucher. Lola's shrill voice pierced my eardrums. She burst into the kitchen waving a gold-foiled card, nearly knocking over the instant noodles I was cooking. Zane's overly retouched face gleamed under the LED lights on the card. Next to the bold print, special perk, 30-second hug plus. Photo, $5,000. Lola shoved the card in my face, her nails still flecked with yesterday's chipped black polish. Big brother Zane only released 50 of these, and I snagged the last one. I stared at the steam rising from my noodles, struggling to keep a straight face. Congrats. Did mom and dad give you the money? Of course. Lola carefully slipped the hug voucher into a transparent card sleeve printed with Zane's chibi version, then attached it to her already heavy idol-themed keychain. Mom says this is an investment in my future. My throat tightened. In my past life, I'd been made to wash dishes for a whole week by Lunaire after objecting to her spending so much on fandom, but this time, I just said softly, "That's really nice." Lola tilted her head, greasy bangs sticking to her forehead. "Sis, why are you acting so weird today?" She knows she was wrong. Lunaire sashayed into the room, her cheap perfume mixing with Lola's sweat to make my stomach churn. She brushed right past me, scooped the instant noodles I'd just cooked from the pot, and handed them to Lola. "Eat up, then do your homework. Your sister will help you organize those, whatever notes later." Voting notes. Lola sprayed food crumbs while talking with her mouth full. Brother Zane is competing in the Most Beautiful Scholar contest next month. Our fan club needs to boost his stats. I silently started boiling water again. Watching Lunaire smooth Lola's hair, it reminded me of my past life, the day I discovered my tuition had been misappropriated, how I'd rushed between 3 student loan offices in the pouring rain, completely drenched and desperate. "Oh, by the way," Lunaire suddenly turned to me. "Mr. Harrison called saying the school needs 200 yuan for materials. I told him we're tight on money lately, so you'll have to figure it out yourself." I gripped my chopsticks tighter. I'd already paid that money last week, covered it with my breakfast allowance. Now I understood that money had probably become part of Lola's hub coupons too. "Okay, Mom," I nodded obediently, watching as Lola pushed her half-eaten instant noodles aside and started swooning over Zane's poster. Back in my room, I immediately pulled the old notebook from my backpack's hidden compartment. On a fresh page, I wrote 5,000 yuan hub coupon and took a photo for documentation, opening my cloud photo album. I created a new encrypted folder titled Evidence and uploaded today's photo of Lola showing off the hub coupon. My phone vibrated, a message from my homeroom teacher. "Mr. Harrison, Sage, your mother mentioned you're applying for student loans." I quickly replied, "Sir, I suspect my family won't cover my college tuition. Could you help me understand the scholarship and student loan options?" After sending the message, I took a screenshot of the chat history. In my past life, I was too concerned with saving face. I never dared to air our family's dirty laundry in public, and it almost cost me my chance to go to college. "Sis," Lola suddenly kicked my door open, startling me so much I nearly dropped my phone. "I've decided, starting today, I'm going to follow Zane's example before his college entrance exams. No showering for a whole month." I looked up and saw her holding up her phone, the screen displaying an article from a marketing account. "Top student idol Zane's college entrance exam secret. Skipping showers can lock in your exam luck. Lola is so clever." Lunaire's voice came from the living room. "That top scorer's method must really work." Kenneth chimed in, "Exactly, this is what you call resonating on the same frequency as a top student." I clenched my jaw. In my past life, it was at this exact moment that I pointed out the entertainment and gossip tag under the article, calling it an obvious publicity stunt, only to be ganged up on by the whole family, accused of being jealous of my sister's success. "That's great," I heard myself say. "Wishing you success." Lola narrowed her eyes skeptically. "You really think so?" "Of course." I even managed a strained smile. "Your happiness is what matters most." She froze for a few seconds, then suddenly lunged to hug me. I instinctively dodged. The faint odor of sweat, grease, and expired body lotion was already starting to cling to her. "So ungrateful," Lola pouted. "Tonight you're helping me organize the fan voting notes until 2 a.m. Our fan club needs to boost the numbers." At 1:45 a.m., rubbing my tired, sore eyes, I finished compiling the last Zane's Genius Moments propaganda document for Lola. She had long since fallen asleep on her Zane body pillow, drool trickling onto the idol's face. I tiptoed back to my room, pulled a pack of wet wipes from the back of the drawer, and vigorously scrubbed the grease off my face and hands. Lola had insisted on eating fried chicken while applying hand cream as she organized her notes, leaving her hands slick with oil. The next morning, I was jolted awake by the shrill alarm. 5:30 a.m. My Scheduled reading time. In the mirror, dark circles hung like shadows under my eyes, so loud. Lola's shriek pierced through from next door. I'm still sleeping. I quickly silenced the alarm, but not before I heard Lanaire's footsteps. Sage, she flung the door open. Can't you cut your sister some slack? She was up so late studying last night. I opened my mouth but ended up saying nothing. In my past life, I'd tried explaining that I was helping Lola compile fan materials until late, only to be told that's what older sisters are supposed to do. While washing up, I noticed Lola's toothbrush was dry. Clearly she hadn't even brushed. A sticky note on the mirror read, "Hid the body wash. Don't even think about sneaking a shower, Lola," I scoffed, splashed some water on my face, and headed out. The morning air felt refreshing. At least here I didn't have to breathe in Lola's slowly fermenting body odor. Sage, too. I'd just stepped out of our apartment complex when someone called my name. It was Auntie Grace from Unit 502 downstairs. She scrunched up her nose and leaned closer. "Is something spoiled in your apartment? I keep catching this strange smell these past couple days." I immediately understood. It's Lola. She's decided not to shower for a whole month. Says it'll bring her good luck on her exams. What? Auntie Grace's eyes went wide. People still believe in that nonsense these days. I feigned a helpless sigh. Both Mom and Dad are on her side. There's nothing I can do. What a shame. Aunt Grace shook her head. Your mother used to be so particular about cleanliness. She suddenly fell silent. Realizing she'd spoken out of turn, I forced a smile. Aunt Grace, if the smell bothers you, you can talk to my stepmother directly. Never mind, never mind. Aunt Grace waved her hand. That stepmother of yours. You've had it rough. I turned and headed towards the school, a smile creeping onto my lips. Another witness, another bargaining chip. When I got home from school and pushed the door open, a wave of foul odor hit me. Lola was sprawled on the couch in the same pajamas she'd worn for 3 days, surrounded by snack wrappers and Zane merchandise. Her greasy hair was clumped together, gleaming unnaturally under the overhead light. "Sis," she waved excitedly, dark sweat stains visible under her arms. I realized today that skipping showers actually helps. I'm solving problems so smoothly. Holding my breath, I placed my backpack on the chair farthest from her. "Congratulations." Right. Lola jumped up, her scent hitting me like a physical wall. Brother Zane calls this original exam luck. So many people in our fan group are trying it, fighting back the urge to gag. I noticed a brand new copy of 5-3 College Entrance Exam Simulator on the coffee table. The plastic wrap was still on, and the cover was dusted with potato chip crumbs. Sage, Luna Iyer called from the kitchen doorway. "Go make dinner, your sisters hungry." I set my backpack down and headed for the kitchen, hearing Lola shout after me, "Sis, I want fried chicken." Brother Zane loves fried chicken the most. In the kitchen, staring at the last 2 eggs and half-wilted cabbage in the fridge, I suddenly remembered my past life. On this very day, Kenneth had called me selfish for secretly boiling an egg for myself. "Mom," I asked calmly, "has all the money been spent?" Lanaire's hand, which was applying nail polish, paused. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing," I said, taking out the cabbage and starting to wash it, "just wondering if I should go to the supermarket to buy some groceries." "No need," she snapped. "Your father will bring money home tonight." Then lowering her voice, "Don't talk about this in front of your sister, it'll affect her study mood." I nodded, mentally adding another note to myself. Lola's study mood was more important than the entire family's basic needs. What truly touching maternal love at dinner. Kenneth indeed returned with a bag of marinated snacks. Lola cheered and rushed over, grabbing a duck neck with her greasy hands and immediately biting into it. "Slow down," Kenneth said with a doting smile, which instantly vanished when he turned to me. "Sage, I heard you upset your sister again this morning." I poked at the plain rice in my bowl. "The alarm clock woke her up. Can't you just not use an alarm?" Kenneth frowned. "Lola's at a crucial stage and needs plenty of sleep." I looked up and saw Lola flipping through Zane's photo book with greasy fingers, leaving smudgy prints all over her idol's face. "All right," I said softly, "I won't use the alarm anymore." Kenneth nodded approvingly as he placed a duck leg in Lola's bowl. "Lola, I got you new blue light blocking glasses. They'll arrive tomorrow." "I want the same ones Zane has," Lola mumbled through a mouthful of food. "The ones that cost $2,800. Done." Kenneth agreed without hesitation. I kept eating with my head down, mentally adding another entry to my ledger. Blue light glasses, yen 2,800. That night, lying in bed, I listened to Lola's shrill laughter as she sent voice messages in her fan group chat. Silently, I put in my earplugs. It was the 3rd day since my rebirth, and while I had gathered plenty of evidence, it was nowhere near enough. I'm going to watch how this family gets dragged into the abyss, little by little. By the precious darling they coddle. Sage, grab my backpack for me. On Saturday morning, Lola's shrieking pierced through my door, rubbing my temples. I looked up from the sea of practice problems. She had already tossed her backpack by my doorway and dashed into the bathroom. She doesn't shower, but she spends 2 hours every day in there boosting Zane's super topic rankings. I bent down to pick up the heavy backpack, but the zipper wasn't closed properly, and its contents spilled out all over the floor. Several brand new copies of 5 years of college entrance exams, 3 years of simulated tests, still sealed in plastic wrap, were lying on top of a pile of colorful Zane merchandise. My eyes were drawn to a gold-foiled envelope. The flap was slightly open, revealing a piece of letterhead inside bearing the name Zane Global Fan Club. I glanced warily toward the bathroom. The sound of running water was still going, and quickly pulled the envelope out. The words "exclusive meet and greet invitation" immediately caught my eye. I skimmed through the contents, my fingers tightening unconsciously around the paper. It was an admission ticket to a Supreme VIP private meet and greet worth 18,888 yuan, scheduled for 3 days after the college entrance exams. "What are you doing?" Lola's shriek made my hand jerk, and the envelope fell to the floor. She rushed over, the stench of sweat, grease, and cheap perfume hitting me like a physical wall. "Pick up what you dropped," I said calmly, gesturing to the scattered items. Lola snatched the envelope, her eyes wide beneath her greasy bangs. "Did you look? Didn't get a good look," I said, bending down to help gather her things, my heart racing. Beside the envelope, I spotted a receipt, Zane's signature ring, yen 9,999. "Did your parents buy all this for you?" I pointed at the pile of merchandise on the floor. Lola lifted her chin proudly. "Of course, Zane's birthday is next week, and the fan club is buying him a star naming right. I donated 5,000 for it." Fighting back the churning in my stomach, I helped her pick up the last photo book. The pages fell open to the autographed page, where "To my dearest Lola, my precious" was written in gold marker. "Zane signed this for me himself." Lola snatched it back and hugged it to her chest. "Once I finish my college entrance exams, I'll get to go to his private party." Looking at her greasy, matted hair and the yellowed collar of her pajamas, I suddenly remembered seeing someone at the flea market last week selling a used tissue of Zane's for 3,000. The insanity of fan culture is beyond anything I ever imagined. "What do you want for your birthday next month, sis?" Lola asked abruptly, her eyes still glued to the photo book. I was stunned. In my past life, right up until I died, I hadn't received a birthday gift in 5 years. "It's fine, really," I said softly, "just asking." Lola pouted. "But anyway, Mom and Dad said all the money this year is going toward my college entrance exams." I quietly noted this information and returned to my room to continue studying. The calendar on my desk showed 25 days left until the exams, and my evidence file already contained over 30 entries. That afternoon, I used the library as an excuse but actually went to an internet cafe. In a secluded corner, I logged into my alternate account and searched for Zane private meetup. The search results made my fingers go cold. Multiple accounts from former fans revealed that these private meetups were actually gray area transactions between the idol and fans, ranging from tens to hundreds of thousands in price, including private companionship and special services. While their authenticity was questionable, Lola's 18,888 yuan ticket was clearly not for an ordinary fan event. "Sage," a voice suddenly called out from behind me. I quickly closed the webpage and turned around. It was Serena from my school, her eyes red and swollen, clutching a pack of tissues. "Are you here for the fan meet too?" she asked between sniffles. I shook my head. "Just doing some research." Glancing at the fan banner in her hand, I tentatively asked, "Are you a fan of Zane?" Serena suddenly broke down sobbing. "I just got kicked out of the fan club, all because I couldn't afford to contribute to the birthday fundraiser." I handed her a tissue and guided her to the seating area. Half an hour later, I managed to extract shocking information from this obsessive fan. Lola was a core member of Zane's fan group, known online as Zane's Little Darling, famous for spending lavishly on her idol. Without hesitation, she even bragged in the group chat about her private messages with him, Serena said bitterly, claiming he promised her a special reward after the college entrance exams. A sharp pain twisted in my gut. In my previous life, Lola had indeed disappeared for 3 days after her exams. When she returned, there were suspicious red marks on her neck, but at the time, our whole family just thought she'd been out with classmates. "Do you know what actually happens at those private fan meetings?" I asked cautiously. Serena's eyes darted away. "Well, it's not something ordinary fans could ever imagine." She lowered her voice. "Lola said her parents agreed to sell their house to fund her obsession. In the group chat, everyone calls her Little Rich Girl." Stepping out of the internet cafe, the June sun stung my eyes. "Lola wants to sell the house for this. That old 2-bedroom apartment might be shabby, but it's the only thing my birth mother left behind on my way Home, I passed a real estate agency. Their window display showed our neighborhood's prices starting at $40,000 per square meter, our 80 square meter apartment. I clenched my phone. That over 3 million yuan from the sale would be more than enough for Lola to splurge for a long time. During dinner, I deliberately brought up in front of Kenneth, "Dad, our homeroom teacher said the college tuition needs to be paid by the end of July at the latest." Smack. Kenneth slammed the bowl hard onto the table. Porcelain shards flew everywhere, and one piece grazed my cheek. "Can't even have a meal in peace." The veins on his forehead bulged. "Money, money, money, all day long. Don't you know what our family situation is right now?" I held my stinging cheek and, out of the corner of my eye, saw Lola typing in Zane's fan group with greasy fingers, a smile on her lips. "Kenneth," Lunair gave her husband a playful shove, then narrowed her eyes at me. "Sage, you know Lola's at a critical stage right now. We have to prioritize her needs with the family funds." "I understand," I murmured, keeping my head down as I scooped rice into my mouth, while secretly pressing the record button on my phone under the table. "Glad we're on the same page." Kenneth sneered. "Figure out your tuition yourself. With your grades, you can always apply for student loans." Lunair added, "Oh, and Aunt Martha's restaurant is hiring servers. $15 an hour. You could work there on weekends." I looked up at Lola, who was grinning foolishly at her phone screen while the imported steak Kenneth had just bought her sat on the table. 298 yuan a portion. "Okay," I murmured in response, a metallic taste of blood spreading in my mouth. I'd unknowingly bitten the inside of my cheek. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the recording. Kenneth's words, "Figure out your own tuition," came through crystal clear. I opened my encrypted photo album and added today's captures: Lola's fan meet invitation, merchandise receipts, and the scab scratch on my face. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was the second mock exam results from our homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison. My name stood proudly at 7th in the grade, while Lola had plummeted to the bottom 20. I deliberately printed out the report card and left it on the coffee table. As expected, Kenneth rushed straight to Lola's room to comfort her the moment he got home. "Don't be discouraged, Lola. The test was really difficult this time, Dad." Lola's voice trembled with tears. "Several kids in my class improved their grades, but mine dropped. That's because they cheated," Lunair declared firmly. "Our Lola is the most honest one of them all." Standing in the shadows of the hallway, I listened to this farce unfold, a faint smirk tugging at my lips. In my past life, I'd been punished with no dinner because of Lola's declining grades. Now, watching them delude themselves like this just seemed utterly ridiculous. "Sis." Lola burst through the door, her eyes red-rimmed. "Why won't you tutor me?" I stared at her greasy forehead and the yellow stains on her collar, replying calmly, "You're too busy chasing celebrities to have time for studying, Sage." Lunair snapped sharply, "Is that any way to speak to your sister?" "Sorry." I immediately lowered my head. Since my rebirth, I'd mastered feigned compliance. "I'll start tutoring Lola tomorrow." Lola snorted dismissively. "No need. Brother Zane says the college entrance exam is all about luck, not ability. I've already discovered the secret to becoming the top scorer." She slammed the door shut, and I heard the sound of a video call from inside. "Brother Zane, I'm so upset today." Back in my room, I opened my notebook and wrote on the latest page, June 10th, Lola mentioned the secret to becoming the top scorer, possibly indicating more crazy plans. After writing this line, I opened the window and took a deep breath. The night sky was dotted with twinkling stars. Could one of them have been bought by Lola as a gift for her brother Zane? The next day was Sunday, and I went to work at Aunt Martha's diner as Lunair had demanded. After standing for 10 hours straight, my feet were so swollen I could barely squeeze them into my shoes. When I finally dragged my exhausted body home, Lola was excitedly showing our parents her new Zane edition watch. The official website price was 16,888 yuan. "Lola, you're amazing," Lunair said, patting her head. "Wearing this watch will definitely help you ace your exams." Kenneth kept nodding in agreement. "Now that's money well spent." I quietly slipped back to my room and pulled my piggy bank out from under the bed. Inside was 687.5 yuan, all the breakfast money I'd secretly saved over the past 6 months. It was nowhere near enough for college tuition, but at least it was a start. Late at night, I logged into my long-unused QQ account and found the contact information for my biological mother's cousin. After much hesitation, I sent a message, "Auntie, this is Sage, do you still remember me?" After sending that message, I curled up in bed, staring at the sliver of light under Lola's door. Her silly giggles and the background music of Zane's new song drifted out from inside. I clutched my phone, which held the video I recorded today, Lola bragging about her watch and saying, "Mom and Dad gave me all the money they saved for my sister's college." The evidence was piling up bit by bit, just like the resentment growing silently inside me. "Lola, could you Step up for a moment. During Wednesday morning's chemistry class, Mr. Harrison paused his lecture for the third time, frowning as he stared toward the back of the classroom. The entire class collectively held their breath. Lola's odor had become so overpowering that even the students in the front row could no longer stand it. What? Lola reluctantly stood up, her greasy, matted hair clinging to her forehead, and the collar of her uniform stained with suspicious yellow marks. Mr. Harrison suppressed his discomfort. The principal's office wants to see you. Also, she paused. Your parents will be here in 10 minutes. Lola shook her hair carelessly, sending flakes of dandruff drifting onto the desks of the front row students, causing a wave of gagging sounds. She swaggered out of the classroom, leaving behind a trail of mixed odors, sweat, grease, and stale perfume. Finally, my desk mate Claudia leaned in and whispered, "If I have to put up with this any longer, I'm going to be sick." I lowered my head, pretending to take notes, but in my mind, I was counting how many times this week I had been called to the principal's office because of Lola's hygiene issues. The day before yesterday, it was because her classmates refused to be in her group during PE class. Yesterday, the cafeteria lady tactfully suggested she pay attention to personal hygiene. As the class ended, my phone started vibrating. It was Luna blowing up my phone. I took a deep breath and answered. Sage, her shrill voice pierced my eardrums. "Get to the principal's office right now." I gripped my phone tightly. "Mom, I still have class. Enough excuses," she practically roared. "Your sister is being bullied." In the principal's office, Lola was sobbing and sniffling as she told her story. The odor emanating from her forced the principal to open all the windows. Mr. Harrison stood nearby, his face ashen with anger. The principal said, wiping sweat from his brow, "We fully respect students' personal habits, but Lola's situation is seriously disrupting the other students." "What do you mean, personal habits?" Luna cut him off, her crimson nails nearly poking the principal in the face. "My Lola is simply adopting the study methods of a top scorer." Mr. Harrison couldn't help interjecting, "Lola's mother, not bathing for a month really isn't a study method. What do you know?" Lunaire's voice rose sharply. "Zane did exactly this before last year's college entrance exams and ended up as the city's top scorer." The principal's face looked as if he'd swallowed a fly. "Well, we've looked into this, and the student in question, Joe, has personally denied that claim. That's just them being modest." Luna pulled Lola into a hug. "My Lola has ambitions. Instead of supporting her, your school actually lets other students ostracize her." I stood in the corner and quietly activated the voice recorder on my phone. "Miss Lola," the principal turned to her while maintaining some distance, "Are you sure you want to keep this up? All the way until the college entrance exams?" Lola lifted her chin, sweat glistening on her neck. "Of course, this is the promise I made with Zane." She pulled out her phone, showing Zane's photo on the lock screen. "Look, he just messaged me yesterday saying how proud he is of me." The principal looked to Mr. Harrison for help, who sighed and said, "Lola's mom. At least let Lola change into some clean clothes." "No," Lola suddenly shrieked, "the aura on these clothes is part of my exam luck. No one touches them." Eventually, under the school's strong insistence, both sides compromised. Lola could continue her exam luck plan, but she had to sit in the last row of the classroom and use the school-provided disinfectant spray daily. "What a lousy school." Luna was still grumbling as they left. "Lola, let's not stoop to their level." Lola smugly linked arms with her mother and deliberately bumped into me as she passed by. "Sis, you're jealous of me, aren't you?" I calmly observed, the red rash beginning to appear on her neck. "Why would I be? Wishing you the best." After school, instead of heading straight home, I went to the biology department office. Professor Lawrence, our school's specially appointed Tsinghua University PhD, was grading assignments. "Sage," he looked up, his eyes smiling behind gold-rimmed glasses. "Here to ask questions." I shook my head and pulled a small petri dish from my backpack. "Professor, could you take a look at this for me?" Inside the petri dish was a sample of skin flakes I had secretly collected from Lola's pillow 3 days ago, which had now developed a suspicious layer of mold. Professor Lawrence took the petri dish, his expression growing serious. "Where did this come from?" "My sister's." I chose my words carefully. "She's developed some unusual hygiene habits lately." After a careful examination, his brow furrowed deeply. "This is a mixed infection of Staphylococcus aureus and some type of fungus, extremely dangerous," he said, looking at me gravely. "The patient needs immediate medical attention and must improve their hygiene conditions." I thanked Professor Lawrence and was about to leave when he stopped me. "Sage, I've been meaning to ask you, have you ever considered applying for Tsinghua University's independent recruitment program?" I was taken aback. "My family's financial situation isn't very good, precisely because of that," he said, handing me a form. "The Strengthening Yourself plan was created For students like you, with your academic record and biology competition awards, your chances are very promising. My hands trembled slightly as I took the form. In my past life, I had missed this opportunity due to family opposition and was forced to take the regular college entrance exam. Thank you, I said, carefully tucking the form away. I'll give it serious thought, stepping out of the school gate. The setting sun cast my long shadow on the ground. My phone buzzed with a text from Lunaire. Where the hell are you? Hurry back and cook. Lola's hungry. When I got home, Lola was sprawled on the couch watching Zane's livestream, surrounded by empty snack wrappers. The inner side of her exposed arms was covered in large red rashes, some scratched raw and oozing. Sis, she said without looking up, get me a glass of ice-cold Coke. I walked into the kitchen and found only one can of Coke left in the fridge. My past self would have saved it for her, but this time, I popped the tab and took a big gulp myself. 3, we're out of Coke, I said, walking out with the half-empty can. Tap water's all that's left. Want some? Lola bolted upright. You liar. I clearly saw. Her eyes widened suddenly. What's that in your hand? I shook the soda can. This, last one, I'm having it. You, she shrieked, leaping up. The smell clinging to her hit me like a wall. That's my Coke. Lunaire rushed in at the noise. What's going on? What happened? She stole my Coke. Lola began to sob, tears carving 2 trails through the grease on her face. Without a word, Lunaire slapped me across the face. I had been prepared and tilted my head slightly to lessen the impact, but my cheek still stung with a burning pain. You wretched scum, she shrieked. How dare you steal from your own sister? Covering my cheek, I replied calmly. There's no name on the jar. How dare you talk back? Lunaire raised her hand to strike again, but Kenneth stopped her. All right, he frowned at me. Sage, go. Get your sister a Coke, and bring back some fried chicken too. I turned away quietly, hearing Lola shout from behind, get the largest size. Zane had fried chicken today, so I want some too. After leaving the neighborhood, I didn't head straight to the fast food joint but instead ducked into the pharmacy next door. What can I help you with? The shop assistant asked warmly. I pointed at the dermatitis medicine in the display case. That one, the cheapest. The clerk pulled out a white ointment. This one is 15 yuan, it treats common dermatitis, no need for the details, I said, pulling out a crumpled bill. I'll take it. On the way back, I passed a trash can and tossed the ointment in. The worse Lola's infection gets, the better for me. At that thought, the corner of my mouth twitched upward. At dinner, Lola devoured fried chicken with greasy fingers swiping across her phone, occasionally giggling like a love-struck fool. I noticed the rash on her arm had spread to the back of her hand. Lola, I asked with faint concern, what's going on with your hand? This is a trial from Brother Zane. She proudly displayed the rash. The fan group says it's the body expelling negative energy. Once it's all out, I'll ace the imperial exams. Kenneth actually nodded in agreement. That makes sense. Ancient cultivators would experience similar symptoms during their meditation retreats. Lunaire stroked Lola's head with tender concern, saying, My dear Lola, you're so resilient. I kept my head down, shoveling rice into my mouth while struggling to hold back my laughter. That evening, under the pretense of studying, I holed up in my room organizing the day's findings, the recording from the principal's office, Professor Lawrence's diagnosis, photos of Lola's arm, and that precious Tsinghua independent enrollment form. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a reply from my aunt, Sage. Oh my goodness. After all these years, how have you been? My eyes grew hot as I stared at the screen. Auntie was my birth mother's closest cousin. In my past life, when I was at my lowest, she tried to help me, but Lunaire turned her away, calling it a family matter. After much hesitation, I replied, Auntie, I need your help. After sending the message, I opened the window and took a deep breath. The night breeze carried the warmth of early summer, and from Lola's room in the distance came her infatuated giggles as she watched Zane's livestream, along with the faint rustling of her scratching her skin. I gently closed the window, turned to a fresh page in my notebook, and wrote down today's discovery. Lola had bragged in her fan group that her parents agreed to sell their house to fund her celebrity obsession, even posting a photo of the property deed. The evidence was piling up bit by bit, spreading silently like the rash on Lola's skin. Mom, Lola fainted on Saturday morning. My scream shattered the quiet of the house. Truth was, Lola had started rambling deliriously in the early hours, but I waited until dawn to discover her. Just to make the act more convincing, Lunaire kicked open Lola's door, and the sight that met her eyes wrenched a piercing shriek from her throat. Lola was curled up on the bed, her face flushed, covered by a blanket printed with Zane's face. Her exposed arms and neck were covered in oozing sores, some already crusted over, the surrounding skin an unnatural purplish red. Lola, sweetheart, Lunaire rushed forward, then recoiled as if shocked by electricity. Oh my God, she's burning up, Kenneth. hurried over at the sound, his face instantly turning pale as he saw his daughter's condition. "Call an ambulance, quick." I stood by the door, calmly observing everything. Lola's breathing was rapid and shallow, her lips chapped and peeling. On the nightstand sat the half-finished cola she'd been drinking last night, the rim of the glass still bearing her lipstick stain, applied specifically to imitate the actress Zane admired. The ambulance arrived with sirens wailing. The moment the medical staff stepped inside, they wrinkled their noses. "What's that smell?" Lunaier stammered. "My daughter, she has an important exam." The medic's face turned pale after the examination. A 39.8 degrees C high fever, severe skin infection. This could be a precursor to sepsis. He pulled back the blanket, exposing Lola's extensive festering wounds to the air, which emitted a foul odor. She hasn't bathed in at least 2 weeks, has she?" "1 month and 3 days, I whispered, making sure only the medic could hear. In the emergency room, the doctor's brow furrowed deeply as he reviewed the test results. "The patient is infected with methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, or MRSA, a superbug." He scanned us with a stern gaze. "Why did you wait so long to bring her in?" Lunaier murmured. "We thought it was just a common allergic reaction." "An allergic reaction?" The doctor pointed at Lola's festering skin. "These wounds are severely infected with pus. 1 more day and she might have needed an amputation." Kenneth's legs gave way, nearly buckling beneath him. "Doctor, you have to save my daughter. I don't care what it costs." The doctor filled out the admission form. "You'll need to pay a $5,000 deposit first. She requires immediate intravenous vancomycin." Kenneth's expression shifted at the mention of that number. I caught that subtle change, and a memory from my past life surfaced. When he bought Lola the same Zane brand watch, he hadn't even batted an eye at the 16,000 price tag. "Mom," I said softly, "I'm going home to get Lola's health insurance card." Lunaier nodded absently, completely absorbed in her phone. She was posting in Zane's fan group. "Please send blessings. My Lola is sick." Back at the house, I headed straight for Kenneth and Lunair's bedroom. The insurance card was in the drawer, but my real target was the locked bedside table. In my past life, I never found out what was inside it. Right up until I died, I snapped a wire off a hairpin and gently fiddled with the keyhole. 5 minutes later, with a sharp click, the drawer slid open. Inside lay a black ledger and an envelope. I quickly flipped open the ledger, and the entries from the last 3 months made my blood run cold. April 15th, sold 1 gold necklace, Sage's late mother's heirloom, for 18,000 yen, used for Lola's birthday fan support. May 1st, withdrew fixed deposit prematurely. Lost 3,245 yen in interest. Purchased Zane's fan meeting ticket 4 yen 18,888. May 20th, borrowed 30,000 yuan, 5% monthly interest, to purchase 1 exclusive photo op pass. My hands trembled slightly. A photo op pass, the kind that gives you a chance to take a solo picture with your idol. 30,000, that's more than my college tuition. Inside the envelope was a gold-foiled card bearing the words "Zane private meet and greet, scheduled for 1 week after the college entrance exams." At the very bottom, in fine print, it read, "VIP privilege, may bring 1 family member backstage." I quickly snapped photos of the key ledger pages and the photo pass with my phone, then returned everything exactly as I found it. As I turned, I caught sight of a hospital payment slip on Lunair's vanity, a 5,000 yuan advance payment, and next to it, a bottle of essential oil endorsed by Zane, with the receipt showing a price of 5,888 yuan. I let out a cold laugh, grabbing the health insurance card and Lola's change of clothes, though she wouldn't need them, since the doctors would surely insist on professional care. On my way back to the hospital, I stopped by a print shop and made 2 copies of the photos I'd just taken. I mailed 1 to my aunt's house and tucked the other inside the cover of 100 Years of Solitude, the book I often borrowed from the library. In the hospital room, Lola was hooked up to N4 but still rambling deliriously. "Zane, I'll come find you as soon as my exams are over." Lunaier stayed by the bedside, live streaming Lola's condition to her fan group. The doctor said Lola loves Zane so much that her body just couldn't handle the intensity of her feelings. I fought the urge to roll my eyes and handed the health insurance card to Kenneth. "Dad, the doctor said we need to pay a 5,000 deposit." He ran his fingers through his hair in frustration. "I know," he said, then lowered his voice to whisper to Lunaier, "We'll have to use that money for now." Lunaier immediately objected. "No, that's for Zane's birthday support project," pretending not to hear them. I walked over to tuck Lola in and secretly activated my phone's voice recorder, slipping it under the pillow. "Mom," Lola's eyes fluttered open, her voice raspy, "I dreamed of Zane. He said I'm definitely going to top the Imperial exams." Lunair's eyes welled up instantly. "Of course you will, you're the best." "But," Lola weakly lifted her four-pierced hand, "I feel awful. Am I going to die?" "Don't talk nonsense." Kenneth snapped sharply. "It's just a minor infection," the doctor happened to enter for rounds and sneered upon hearing this. A minor infection, MRSA, has a mortality rate of around 20%, and it's even higher if it progresses to sepsis. Lunayar finally panicked. Doctor, you must use the best medicine available. The best medicine is maintaining hygiene, the doctor said sternly. The patient must bathe daily, and all wounds need to be disinfected and bandaged. No. Lola suddenly struggled to sit up, tugging at the foreline. I can't bathe, it'll wash away. My exam luck. The doctor stared at us in disbelief. Exam luck, what's that? It's a study method, I explained quietly, watching my parents' reactions. Lunayar quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Doctor, we'll be more careful after we get home. Careful, the doctor raised his voice. The patient needs to be hospitalized for observation for at least 3 days. Eventually, Lola was admitted to the hospital. While Kenneth was paying the fees, I overheard him on the phone trying to borrow money. Can you lend me 5,000? Lola's in the hospital. What? 8% interest. That's way too high. Meanwhile, Lunayar was busy raising funds in the fan group. Lola fell ill because of Zane. Everyone, please help us out. I sat in the corner of the hospital room, pulling out my biology textbook to study. Every now and then, I'd glance up at Lola. She was grinning foolishly at a photo of Zane on her phone, not looking sick at all. Sage. Lunayar suddenly called out to me, stay here and look after Lola. I'm going home to grab a few things. I nodded obediently, knowing full well she was off to prepare Zane's birthday fan support. Tomorrow was the Scholar Idol's big day. That evening, Kenneth made an excuse to leave as well, leaving me alone on caretaker duty. The sedatives in Lola's foredrip quickly took effect, and she fell asleep. I quietly retrieved my phone from under the pillow and checked the recording. It had perfectly captured Lola's delirious rant about needing to see Zane even if it kills me. Then I pulled out my workbook and started grinding through problems in the dim hospital light. During rounds, the nurse asked in surprise, don't you have an exam tomorrow? Why are you still studying? I smiled. You get used to it. She shook her head and walked away. I overheard her whispering to a colleague, this family is so strange. The older daughter studies so hard, but the younger one. 3 days later, the doctor reluctantly agreed to discharge Lola, but insisted she must clean her wounds daily and take her medicine on time. The moment Lola got home, she tossed the medicine into a drawer and started slathering herself with the Top Scholar essential oil endorsed by Zane. Brother Zane said this will guarantee I get full marks on my exam, she exclaimed excitedly, spinning around. The freshly formed scabs on her body rubbed against her clothes, causing thin traces of blood to seep through. Lunayar didn't stop her. In fact, she joined in, slathering more onto Lola's hair. Put on more. I heard this essential oil contains wood shavings from the pen used by a top scholar. Fighting back my disgust, I quietly gathered my exam supplies, admission ticket, ID card, 2B pencils. I checked each item 3 times. In my past life, I almost missed the exam because I was helping Lola treat her wound. On the eve of the college entrance exam, Lola burst into my room reeking of strong essential oil, which smelled like spilled cheap perfume. Sis, her eyes sparkled. Look what I found. She was holding a test tube-like container with a few strands of hair inside. What's this? It's Zane's hair. She waved her arms excitedly. A fan club member sold it to me for 5,000. I'm taking it into the exam hall. I stared at the tube, suddenly remembering Kenneth complaining about maxing out his credit card the other day. 5,000, that's 3 months of living expenses for me. Wishing you success, I said calmly, turning back to straighten the school uniform I'd wear tomorrow, faded from washing but clean and tidy. Lola curled her lip. How insincere. She suddenly leaned in close, her scent nearly suffocating me. I know you're jealous because Mom and Dad only love me. I didn't argue, just looked at the unhealed wound on her neck. Remember to take your medicine on time. Like hell I will. She rolled her eyes. Brother Zane said Western medicine disrupts the human magnetic field. Late at night, lying in bed, I overheard Lola next door murmuring to Zane's poster. Brother Zane, tomorrow I'll enter the exam hall carrying your blessings. I pulled out the phone hidden under my mattress and texted my aunt. The college entrance exams start tomorrow. Everything is going according to plan. Outside the window, a full moon hung high in the sky. Tomorrow, the battle would begin. On the first day of the Gaokao, I woke up at 5 a.m. It was still pitch black outside, but the light was already on in Lola's room next door. She must have pulled another all-nighter. Busy spamming her fan group chats, I quietly finished washing up and checked the transparent folder 3 times, making sure my exam admission ticket, ID card, and stationery were all there. In my past life, I nearly missed the exam because I helped Lola search for her lost admission ticket. This time around, I wouldn't even give her a second glance. Sis, Lola suddenly kicked the bathroom door open, her peculiar scent, a mix of essential oils, sweat, and medicine, instantly flooding the cramped space. Look at my admission ticket. She waved around a heavily modified exam ticket, where the official ID photo should have been. She'd stuck a large headshot of Zane, surrounded by a border of heart and glitter stickers. That would be considered cheating, I said calmly, squeezing past her. No way. She lifted her head proudly, the scab on her neck cracking slightly. The Proctors are all fans of Zane. I couldn't be bothered to argue and went straight to the kitchen to boil 2 eggs. In my past life, I was too nervous to eat breakfast and ended up with a stomachache during the Chinese exam. This time, I'm leaving nothing to chance. Lunair got up unusually early and prepared a scholar's breakfast for Lola, a fried dough stick and 2 eggs arranged in the shape of 100. Mom, Lola shrieked, shoving her plate away. Zane had a Western breakfast for his college entrance exams. I want bacon and eggs. Lunair panicked instantly. There's no time to go buy some now. I don't care, Lola started throwing things. If I do poorly on the test, it'll be all your fault. Kenneth quickly pulled out his wallet and shoved it at Lunair. Go quickly and come right back. I watched the scene unfold, quietly finished my own egg, then grabbed an extra one. Looked like Lola wasn't going to touch that fried dough stick after all. At 7:30, we finally headed out. Lola was wearing a Zane fan t-shirt and ripped jeans. Her hair so greasy it clumped into strands, and she was slathered in that so-called Top Scholar essential oil that gave off this weird, glossy sheen in the sunlight. Lola, I asked with faint concern, did you bring the medicine the doctor prescribed? She rolled her eyes. I told you that medicine messes with my energy field. Then, with a mysterious air, she pulled a small cloth pouch from her bag. Look, this is sacred incense ash from the temple in Zane's hometown, way better than any of that useless medicine. A crowd of students and parents had already gathered outside the exam hall. The moment we appeared, the crowd immediately stirred. Lola's odor was simply overpowering. What's that smell? A girl asked, covering her nose. It seems to be coming from that person. Lola held her head high and walked with confidence, as if those strange looks were actually admiration. She even deliberately moved closer to the crowd, wanting more people to bask in the aura of a top scorer. Ugh. A boy retched violently. Is this some kind of chemical weapon? The proctor walked over with a furrowed brow. Student, you. Hello, teacher. Lola bowed exaggeratedly. I'm Zane's fiancé. The room fell silent instantly, then erupted in roaring laughter. The corner of my mouth twitched as I fought back a laugh. This scene never happened in my past life. Looks like Lola's craziness has leveled up, the proctor said sternly. Please show me your exam admission ticket. For Lola proudly handed over the ticket plastered with Zane's photos. The teacher's face looked as if she'd swallowed a fly. This is against the rules. Why? Lola shrieked. This is discrimination. I'm going to file a complaint. The farce ended with Lola being assigned to a separate backup exam room. Before leaving, she shot me a venomous glare. It's all your fault. If you hadn't made me angry this morning, I wouldn't have been singled out. I blinked innocently. I didn't do anything. The Chinese exam went smoothly. I focused on answering the questions and even finished 20 minutes early. As I left the exam hall, I saw Lola surrounded by several teachers, still arguing about her exam permit. Sis, she rushed over and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my flesh. They wouldn't let me bring the incense ashes into the exam hall, and they said I smelled. I gently pulled my arm away. You really haven't showered in a while. You. Her eyes widened in shock as she suddenly raised her hand to strike me. Miss Lola, a proctor snapped sharply. Mind your behavior. Lola grudgingly lowered her hand and hissed under her breath, just you wait, I'll deal with you after the exam. Back home, Lunair had prepared a lavish lunch, all of Lola's favorite dishes. Kenneth had even taken half a day off work to accompany her for the exam. How did the exam go, Lola? Lunair asked urgently. Lola slammed her chopsticks down. I'm absolutely furious. They wouldn't let me use the pen blessed by Brother Zane, and they locked me in a tiny dark room to take the test. What? Kenneth shot up from his seat. I'm going to talk to their supervisor tomorrow. Exactly, Lunair fumed in solidarity. Our Lola is destined to be the top scholar. I ate quietly while listening to them debate which education bureau official to file a complaint against. In a past life, I tried to explain exam regulations, only to be accused of biting the hand that feeds me. Before the afternoon math exam, I saw the proctor standing guard at the entrance of the backup exam room, air freshener in hand. Lola strode in with her head held high, like a martyr marching to her execution. The next day was even worse. Lola insisted on wearing the same outfit as Zane, a trendy t-shirt printed with top student extraordinaire that cost 2,999 yuan. The problem was, it was a thin summer tee, and the temperature had plummeted with the rain. Achoo! Lola's sneezes in the exam room were audible through the walls. Midway through the test, she actually raised her hand to request a pause, claiming that Brother Zane appeared in a dream and said the answer is C. During the final English exam, Lola was clearly not herself. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips were chapped, and halfway through the test, she suddenly stood up and shouted, "This reading comprehension passage is an interview with Zayn. I know all the answers." The proctor's report noted that she had covered her answer sheet with Zayn's lyrics and fan slogans. She even drew a huge heart in the essay section with the words, "Marry me, Zayn" inside. When the bell rang for the last exam, I breathed a deep sigh of relief. No matter the outcome, I had given it my all. As I left the exam hall, I saw Lola being pulled aside by the dean for a talk, and she was hysterically screaming about persecution. "Sis," she suddenly rushed over and grabbed me. "Let's go home. I need to pack my bags." I feigned confusion. "What luggage? Zayn's having a private fan meet in Hangzhou tomorrow." She was practically tripping over her words with excitement. "I already booked my flight and got VIP seats." I narrowed my eyes. In my past life, she did vanish for 3 days right after the exams. When she came back, there were suspicious red marks on her neck, but the whole family was too wrapped up in Lola's college entrance exam failure to question it. Back home, Lola immediately locked herself in her room to pack. I overheard her on the phone. "Yeah, the first flight tomorrow. Money's not an issue. Of course I want the special service." At dinner, Kenneth asked about the exam results, and Lola confidently claimed she would score at least 650 points. "Absolutely," Lunair said, placing a piece of fish on her plate. "Lola has big brother Zayn watching over her." Kenneth nodded with satisfaction. "Once the scores are out, we'll throw a proper celebration for your admission." I kept my head down, shoveling rice into my mouth, thinking it would indeed be quite a celebration, when Lola's score, barely hitting 300 points, came to light. Late at night, I pretended to be asleep and heard Lola tiptoe out. I immediately got up and followed her from a distance. She hailed a cab straight to the airport, while I took a shortcut on a shared bike and got there first. The airport was brightly lit, and Lola was excitedly hopping from foot to foot at the check-in counter. I hid behind a pillar and recorded her going through the entire check-in process. "Flight MU5431 to Hangzhou is now boarding." The announcement echoed through the terminal, and Lola couldn't wait to dash towards security. I didn't try to stop her. Instead, I turned around and headed straight for the airport police station. "Officer, I'd like to report a possible fraud case." I showed the officer on duty Lola's photo on my phone. "My sister just turned 18, she's obsessed with this celebrity, and now she's flying to meet some internet celebrity. She even bought some special service." The officer immediately became alert. "Do you have any information about the other party?" I pulled up Zayn's photo and the screenshot of that 18,888 yuan meet and greet. "This is the celebrity. I've heard their studio frequently arranges these kinds of gray area transactions." After giving my statement, I anonymously contacted several entertainment media outlets, providing them with Lola's flight information and chat screenshots from Zayn's fan group. Then I sat on an airport bench, watching Lola board the plane with excitement. My phone vibrated with back-to-back calls from Lunair. I powered it off and cycled home at a leisurely pace. The house was in complete chaos. Kenneth was pacing furiously in the living room, while Lunair's makeup was streaked from crying. "Where the hell have you been?" Kenneth roared the moment he saw me. "Your sister is missing." I feigned surprise. "What? She didn't say anything to me." "You." He raised his hand to strike me, but suddenly his face contorted. He clutched his chest and collapsed. "Kenneth!" Lunair screamed. An ambulance came wailing to the scene. The doctor diagnosed it as a sudden heart attack. In the hospital corridor, while waiting for the surgery results, Lunair was still sending messages in her fan group. "Please send blessings. Lola's dad is sick. Oh, and the money for Zayn's birthday support. I'll transfer it tomorrow." I watched coldly from the sidelines, recording it all with my newly purchased backup phone. At 3 a.m., Kenneth was out of danger, using the excuse of buying breakfast. I left the hospital and found an internet cafe to check the news. Sure enough, hashtag Zayn fan skips Gaokao to chase idol was trending. In the video, Lola was surrounded by media at Hangzhou airport, shouting into the camera, "Zayn and I are truly in love. He promised to go public with our relationship once I get into university. Has this girl lost her mind?" I heard her Gaokao essay was filled with Zayn's lyrics. What were her parents thinking? I closed the webpage with satisfaction and returned to the hospital. Lunair was yelling into the phone. "What? Lola made the news. Who leaked the story?" Spotting me, she immediately ordered, "Sage, get online and issue a statement saying the media is spreading lies." I blinked innocently. "Mom, my phone's dead." The first thing Kenneth said upon waking was, "Where's Lola?" Lunair stammered. She went to a classmate's house to play." "Bullshit." Kenneth struggled to sit up. "I saw the news. That shameless bastard." "Kenneth," Lunair said urgently. "Lola was framed by the media." I watched the whole charade unfold. Quietly noting down another piece of evidence, my phone buzzed with a message from my aunt. Received the documents. My lawyer friend says we have a strong case. Outside the window, the morning sun was slowly rising. In just 2 weeks, the college entrance exam results would be released. I was looking forward to that day. On the day the college entrance exam results were posted, I made a point of waking up early. Standing before the mirror, I carefully brushed my hair and tied it into a neat ponytail. In my past life, that same day, I had missed the score-checking window because I was trying to talk Lola out of suicide. By the time I rushed to school, everyone was buzzing about my 668-point score. While Lola was sobbing hysterically in the bathroom, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison. Sage, the results are out. Come to school immediately. I slipped out quietly so as not to disturb my still sleeping family. Lola had been grounded by Kenneth ever since returning from Hangzhou, and Lunair had spent the whole night comforting her. They'd probably only just fallen asleep. The morning air was exceptionally fresh. I took a deep breath and walked slowly toward the school. A crowd of students and parents had already gathered at the entrance. Some were cheering with joy, while others were hugging each other and crying. Sage, Mr. Harrison waved to me from a distance, a barely contained smile on his face. Guess what you scored? I looked at her calmly and said, 668 points. Mr. Harrison's eyes widened. How did you? Never mind. Come see the detailed scores. In the office, several teachers were gathered around a computer. When they saw me enter, they all gave me a thumbs up. My transcript showed Chinese 138, Math 145, English 142, Science Composite 243, total score 668. Provincial rank 79. Sage, the principal came over personally and patted my shoulder. You've brought honor to our school. I smiled politely. Thank you. Principal, by the way, Mr. Harrison suddenly lowered his voice. Your sister, her grades. I glanced at her computer screen, where Lola's transcript was clearly displayed. Chinese 56, Math 32, English 48, Science 150, total score 286, provincial ranking. I couldn't be bothered to read further. How did she get 150 in science? I asked, puzzled. Mr. Harrison gave a wry smile. She doodled on the answer sheet, so she was given half the base score as per the rules. Just as we were talking, my phone started vibrating like crazy. The screen showed an incoming call from Mom. I hit the answer button, and Lunair's hysterical screams immediately erupted. Sage, get back here now. Lola's going to jump off the building. The office fell silent in an instant, everyone staring at me. I calmly replied, I'm at school checking my grades. I'll be right back. After hanging up, Mr. Harrison asked with concern, do you need any help? No need. I folded the report card and slipped it into my pocket. This is a family matter. After leaving school, I didn't head straight home. Instead, I stopped by a nearby print shop and made 10 copies of my report card. In my past life, I came home empty-handed, and my report card was torn to shreds by a hysterical Lola, which left me without crucial documentation when applying for scholarships. A crowd had gathered outside our house, and from upstairs came Lola's heart-wrenching screams. I don't believe it. There must be some mistake. I have Brother Zane watching over me. I pushed through the crowd and went upstairs to find Lola, wearing a Zane fan t-shirt, straddling the balcony railing with her legs dangling over the edge. Lunair was on her knees, sobbing and pleading, while Kenneth stood nearby, his face ashen, clutching Lola's report card in his hand. Lola, Lunair spotted me like a drowning man clutching at a straw. Quick, tell your sister that exam results can be appealed. All eyes turned to me. Lola whipped her head around, greasy strands of hair plastered to her cheeks, her eyes swollen and red like peaches. Sis, my scores, there must be some mistake, right? I stepped closer slowly and pulled a slip of paper from my pocket. This is my transcript. Lola snatched it from my hands, her eyes darting across the numbers. Her face went from flushed to pale. 6,668. Her voice trembled. Impossible. You literally forced me to take a shower, Sage. Lunair snapped sharply. This is not the time for that. I looked calmly at Lola and said, the deadline for the review application is 3 p.m. this afternoon. Lola suddenly jumped down from the railing and lunged at me. It's all your fault. You did this. Her sharp nails scraped across my cheek, leaving a stinging pain. If you hadn't forced me to take a bath, I could have topped the exams just like Brother Zane. I took a step back, dodging her attack, while catching a glimpse of someone downstairs holding up a phone to record. Seems like the media has already caught wind of the situation. Lola, Kenneth finally spoke up. Stop making a scene, Dad. Lola turned to her father. You promised to throw me a college acceptance party. What are we going to do now? Kenneth's face turned ashen as he suddenly clutched his chest. The aftereffects of his last heart attack hadn't fully subsided. Lunair rushed to support him, but still managed to comfort Lola. Don't worry, sweetheart. We can always retake the exams. The doorbell suddenly rang. I went downstairs to answer it and found several young people wearing press badges standing outside. "Hello, we're from the City Daily. We'd like to interview Lola." I stepped aside to let them in. "She's upstairs." The reporters swarmed in, their cameras and microphones aimed at the still sobbing Lola. Luna Ayer immediately put on a smile. "Oh, dear journalists, our Lola is just a bit nervous. Actually, her grades are usually excellent." A sharp-eyed female reporter spotted the transcript in my hand. "Miss, did you also take the college entrance exam this year?" Before I could respond, "Lola?" shrieked, "Stop filming her, she's not my sister." The reporters were startled by the sudden outburst, but their professional instincts immediately told them this was a major story. A male journalist whispered to his colleague, "Is that the girl from online who chased her idol all the way to the airport?" "Yeah," I heard someone murmur in response. "The one with the 286 score." Lunaire's face darkened. "Comrade journalists, our Lola just underperformed on the test, ma'am," the female reporter interrupted her. "Your daughter claimed at the airport that she's in a romantic relationship with Zayn. Do you have any comment on this?" Luna Ayer was momentarily speechless, while Kenneth's face darkened instantly. "What romantic relationship?" Just then, Lola's phone chimed with a special notification tone. She reflexively grabbed it, her face instantly lighting up. Zayn just posted on Weibo. Everyone crowded around to look, and saw that Zayn's official studio account had released a official statement. "It has come to our attention that certain individuals claiming to be fans have recently made false public statements alleging inappropriate relations with Mr. Zayn. We hereby solemnly declare that Mr. Zayn has always abided by the law and maintained appropriate boundaries with all fans, with no misconduct whatsoever. Our company reserves the right to pursue legal action against those spreading misinformation." Lola's face turned deathly pale. "No, it can't be. Zayn clearly told me." She frantically scrolled through her phone. "I've been kicked out of the fan group." Journalists eagerly documented the scene as camera flashes lit up the area. Luna Ayer tried to intervene. "Stop filming. My daughter needs to rest." The female reporter turned to me and asked, "Classmate, could you share something about your Gaokao results?" I calmly handed over my transcript. 668 points. Ranked 79th in the province. "Wow," the reporters exclaimed, cameras immediately swiveling toward me. "Any study secrets to share? Focus on your studies. Steer clear of celebrity worship," I said flatly. Those words acted like a fuse, instantly setting Lola off. "Sage, you bitch." She lunged to snatch my transcript. "You must have cheated." Chaos erupted in the room. Kenneth was shouting at the reporters to get out. Luna Ayer was busy trying to calm Lola down, while I stood in the corner, coolly observing the whole spectacle. After the journalists left, Lola collapsed on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, and Luna Ayer started wiping away tears too. Kenneth sat on the couch with a grim expression, clutching the remote control. The local news was broadcasting a segment titled "Reactions to College Entrance Exam Results Release," and right there on the screen was Lola on the balcony, looking like she was about to jump. "Sage," Kenneth suddenly spoke up, "come here." I walked over to him, and he looked me up and down. "With a score of 668, what kind of college can you get into? Getting into Tsinghua or Peking University won't be a problem," I replied calmly. Luna Ayer looked up abruptly. "But the tuition, figure it out yourself," Kenneth said coldly. "The family's money needs to be saved for Lola's repeat year." I smiled, pulling a folder from my backpack. "Don't worry about it, Dad. I've gathered some materials here that you should take a look at." Kenneth frowned as he took the folder, which contained the evidence I had meticulously compiled: records of Lola's idol-related expenses, proof of misappropriated tuition funds, photos of the family ledger, screenshots of Lola boasting about selling the house, and that recording of her saying, "I won't give you a single cent for tuition. This is..." Kenneth's hands began to tremble. "And there's more," I said, opening my phone and playing a recording of Lola on her sickbed declaring, "Even if I die from this illness, I must see Brother Zayn." Lunaire's face turned deathly pale. "Sage, I've applied for student loans and scholarships," I said calmly. "Besides, Professor Lawrence recommended me for Tsinghua's self-strengthening program, and I've already passed the initial review." Lola suddenly scrambled up from the floor, her eyes red-rimmed. "You set us up." "I was just protecting myself," I said, looking at her. "Didn't you all decide to sacrifice me a long time ago?" Kenneth shot to his feet. "Sage, how dare you speak to your parents like that?" "Parents," I sneered. "I've had no parents since the day my birth mother died." Luna Ayer suddenly rushed over, trying to snatch my phone. "Delete it. Erase all those recordings." I easily dodged her. "They're already backed up, both in the cloud and with my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" Kenneth's face fell. Just then, the doorbell rang again. I went to answer it and found my aunt standing outside with a middle-aged man in a crisp suit. "Sage," my aunt said with concern, gently touching the scratches on my face, "this is Leonard, the Lawyer, Leonard stepped into the living room, glanced around, and stated in a businesslike tone, Mr. Kenneth, I'm here on behalf of my client Sage regarding the inheritance from her biological mother. What inheritance? Lunaier shrieked. That junk was sold off ages ago. Attorney Leonard remained unmoved. According to Sage's biological mother's will, the bank deposits and jewelry under her name should be inherited by Sage. Our investigation shows that you've taken the liberty of disposing of these assets. Kenneth slumped onto the couch, his face ashen. Lola stared blankly at the scene, still reeling from her idol's betrayal. Sage, Lunaier suddenly dropped to her knees. I'm begging you as your mother, please stop this. Lola is already going through enough. I took a step back. Mother, you've never treated me as your daughter. There's no need to play the loving parent now. Attorney Leonard handed over a document. Mr. Kenneth, this is a notice of asset recovery, also, regarding Sage's college tuition. She can figure it out herself. Kenneth roared. I'm not paying a single cent. Perfect, I said with a smile. I don't want anything more to do with you people either. My aunt put a comforting arm around my shoulder. Sage, pack your things and come stay with me. I went upstairs to pack my bags, though there wasn't much to take. A few faded clothes from too much washing, a photo of my birth mother, and that notebook that documented everything. Lola stood blocking the doorway, her eyes filled with resentment. You think you've won? I stopped in my tracks and turned to face her. Lola, do you know Zane's actual exam scores? 5. She froze. What? He only scored 402 on last year's college entrance exam, I said quietly. That story about him being the city's top scorer, the company paid for that press release. You're lying, Lola shrieked. Zane is a straight-A student. I shrugged. Suit yourself. Then I dragged my suitcase downstairs. Lunaier was still tearfully pleading, while Kenneth was yelling at the lawyer, Leonard. I walked past them calmly and paused at the door. By the way, reporters will probably uncover the truth about Lola and Zane's private rendezvous soon. You'd better get your stories straight. Lola's scream echoed from upstairs. Sage, I hate you. I didn't look back, striding out of the cage that had trapped me for 2 lifetimes. The sunlight fell on my face, warm and bright. My phone vibrated with a message from Professor Lawrence. Congratulations, your Tsinghua University admission letter has arrived, with a full scholarship. I took a deep breath and replied, Thank you, Professor, a new life begins now. Behind me, the cries from that house grew fainter and fainter, until they finally vanished in the summer breeze. 4 years later, at the Beijing World Trade Center, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the endless stream of traffic on Chang'an Avenue. My phone vibrated, and the screen showed an incoming call from Professor Lawrence. Sage, I heard you got promoted. Professor Lawrence's familiar voice came through. The youngest investment director. Not bad at all. I chuckled softly. Thanks to your recommendation back then. By the way, he shifted the subject. Have you been in touch with your sister lately? I gazed out the window, where sunlight glared off the glass curtain wall. No. Why do you ask? I just got back from my hometown. Professor Lawrence sighed. Your father, his condition isn't good. After hanging up, I opened my old phone that I hadn't used in ages. A 3-month-old WeChat message from Kenneth sat unread. Sage, Dad's sick. Could you lend some money? I never replied, but now, perhaps it's time to bring closure to this. As the high-speed train pulled into my hometown station, I felt a momentary daze, for years had passed, and the city felt both familiar and foreign. Dressed in a sharp professional suit and pulling a carry-on, I stepped off the platform, a world apart from the girl who had fled 4 years ago, dragging a cheap suitcase. Director, the driver Charlie took my luggage. Shall we head to the hotel first, or Sunshine Garden Estates? I said, giving my old address. The neighborhood looked much more run-down than I remembered. In the security booth, a hunched figure was tidying up the logbook. When he looked up, I almost didn't recognize him. Kenneth, my father. Once a vibrant high school teacher, now with a face full of wrinkles and graying hair. Sage. His eyes widened, and the pen in his hand clattered to the ground. I looked at him calmly and said, I heard you were sick. He wiped his hands nervously on his uniform. It's nothing serious. I'm just glad you're back. Where's Lola? I cut straight to the chase. Kenneth's expression instantly stiffened. She's at home. I followed him into the residential complex, drawing surprised looks from the neighbors. Aunt Grace was hanging laundry downstairs and immediately came over when she saw me. Sage, is that really you? I heard you're an executive at a big company in Beijing now. I smiled and nodded. Hello, Aunt Grace. You've grown up so well. She looked me up and down. Unlike some people, she shot a meaningful glance at Kenneth, who squandered the entire family fortune. Kenneth lowered his head and hurried away. After saying goodbye to Aunt Grace, I followed him. The door of our former home still had faded Spring Festival couplets pasted on it. Kenneth's hand trembled slightly as he pulled out the keys. When he pushed the door open, a musty smell mixed with the scent of cheap air freshener hit us. In the living room, Lunaire was sorting through a pile of health supplements. When she saw me, the box in her hand clattered to the floor. Sage's back. She forced a smile. Lola, your sister's home. No response. I glanced around. More than half the furniture was gone, with only glue marks left on the wall where Lola had hung Zane's posters, a few photos. Sat by the TV, all solo shots of Lola, not a single one included me. Lola, Lunaire raised her voice, walking toward a closed door. Your sister's here to see you, get out, came a hoarse yell from inside. I don't have any sister. Lunaire gave an awkward laugh. She's not in a good mood. I walked straight to the door and pushed it open gently. Lola was curled up on the bed, wearing a grimy Zane fan t-shirt. She had gained quite a bit of weight compared to 4 years ago. Her hair was greasy and tangled, and the room was littered with empty snack bags and drink bottles. Lola. I called her name. She lifted her head slowly, her eyes dull and unfocused, then they suddenly widened at the sight of me. You, what are you doing here? Come to watch me suffer. I looked at her calmly. I heard Dad's sick. I came back to see him. Don't pretend to care. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. Don't you wish we were dead? The pillow landed softly at my feet. I noticed a few Zane posters still hanging on the wall, but they were all scratched beyond recognition. Lola, Lunaire burst in. Is that any way to speak to your sister? Lola suddenly broke into hysterical laughter. Sister, is she even worthy of that title? Staggering out of bed, she pointed a finger right at my face. Do you know why she came back? To gloat over how miserable we've become. I took a step back, avoiding the unpleasant odor emanating from her. After 3 years of retaking exams, did you even get in anywhere? The word struck her like a knife. Lola's face contorted. If it weren't for you, if you hadn't ruined my life, I ruined it. I sneered. You made that choice yourself, remember, skipping showers to ace the imperial exams. Lola let out a feral scream, grabbing objects from the table and hurling them at me. A photo frame grazed my forehead before shattering on the floor. That photoshopped picture of her with Zane. Enough. Kenneth suddenly roared. Shut up, all of you. The room fell silent instantly. Lola stood panting, glaring daggers at me. I bent down to pick up the photograph, still obsessed. Don't you know Zane's career is already 6 feet under? You're lying, Lola screamed. Brother Zane is the best. I pulled out my phone and pulled up a news article. Straight A student idol Zane exposed for faking college entrance exam score. Actually only scored 402. Lola lunged to grab the phone, but I easily dodged and continued reading. His agency admitted the city's top scorer's story was a paid placement. Impossible. Lola's voice began to tremble. This is just malicious rumors spread by anti-fans. I tapped on a video where Zane, under persistent questioning from reporters, bowed his head and admitted to the fraud. The footage was crystal clear. Lola collapsed to the floor as if her bones had been removed, her lips quivering, unable to speak. Lola, Lunaire rushed to support her with concern, only to be shoved away. This is all your fault. Lola suddenly turned to her parents. You're the ones who said Zane was a top student. You're the ones who made me follow his example. Kenneth's face turned ashen. You have no one to blame but your own incompetence. Seeing another argument about to erupt, I cut in. Dad, you said you were sick. Kenneth suddenly deflated. High blood pressure, and heart problems too. The doctor said I need a stent. 50,000 or so. He couldn't meet my eyes. Lunaire cut in immediately. Sage, you've made it big now. This amount is nothing to you. I can cover it, I said calmly, but there's one condition. Kenneth looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. What are the conditions? First, pay back my college tuition from 4 years ago, and my mother's inheritance. I turned to Lunaire. How much did you get for the jewelry? 180,000. Lunaire turned pale. What? It wasn't that much. Director, a voice suddenly came from outside the door. Do you need me to come in? I turned around to see Charlie, the driver, standing at the door, with a sharply dressed middle-aged man behind him. It was Leonard, the lawyer. Leonard, the lawyer. Kenneth took a frightened step back. You both, Mr. Kenneth, Leonard said in a business-like tone as he handed over a document. This is the settlement agreement from the inheritance dispute back then. Please take a look. Kenneth's hands trembled as he tipped the document, his face growing increasingly pale. This is way too much, according to the bank statements, Attorney Leonard said calmly. Ms. Sage's 4 years of university tuition and living expenses total 158,000 yuan, plus the appraised value of the jewelry at 186,000 yuan, making a combined total of 344,000 yuan. Where would we get that kind of money? Lunaire shrieked. We've even mortgaged the house. I turned to Lola. How much did those Zane merchandise items sell for? Lola's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with hatred. Don't you dare touch my things, Lola. Lunaire suddenly grabbed her hand. Those posters, those autographs, we could actually. No, Lola shook her off. Those are my last memories. I let out a cold laugh and pulled an envelope from my bag. There's 10,000 here, enough for the hospital deposit. I placed the envelope on the table. As for the rest, I'll cover the surgery costs once you've paid back what's owed. Kenneth suddenly burst into tears. Sage, I know I was wrong. I showed favoritism back then. No, you don't understand. I unlocked my phone and played a recording. Sage, I heard you're applying for a student loan. Teacher, I doubt my family will pay for my college tuition. You'll have to figure out the tuition yourself. With your grades. Kenneth's voice was unmistakable in the recording. The color instantly drained from his face. There's more, I said, playing another clip. You're amazing, Lola. Wearing this watch will definitely help you ace the exam. Money well spent. Sage, your Aunt Martha's restaurant is hiring servers, $15 an hour. Kenneth slumped into the chair, unable to utter another word. Sage, Lunaier suddenly dropped to her knees. I'm begging you, your father will die if. I took a step back. You should have known this would happen when you chose Lola over me 4 years ago. Lola suddenly lunged to snatch the envelope, but I easily dodged her. She fell to the ground, letting out a pained groan. Lola. Lunaier immediately rushed to help her up, but shot me a resentful glare. Are you satisfied now? Happy to see us like this? I shook my head and handed the envelope to Leonard the lawyer. Give it directly to the hospital. This money is earmarked for specific use only. Stepping out of what was once my home, I took a deep breath. Charlie asked softly, Director, shall we head back to the hotel? Let's head somewhere first. I gave an address, Municipal First High School. At the school gate, Mr. Harrison was already waiting. Spotting me, she waved excitedly. Sage, it really is you. I walked up to her with a smile. Mr. Harrison, long time no see. Well, look who's back. The big shot from Beijing. She looked me up and down. Heard you're a director at an investment firm now. You're making your old teacher proud. After exchanging pleasantries, I got straight to the point. Mr. Harrison, I'd like to set up a scholarship fund specifically for girls like I used to be. Mr. Harrison's eyes instantly welled up. That's wonderful. This is exactly what our school needs. As we walked and talked, a familiar figure emerged from the restroom near the teaching building. It was Claudia, who used to sit behind Lola, now working as a student teacher. Senior Sage, she exclaimed, rushing over with delight. I've been wanting to thank you. I was taken aback. Thank me. We all knew about what you went through back then, she said softly. The reason I got into teachers' college was because I saw how hard you were working. A wave of warmth washed over me. The struggles I thought had gone unnoticed had actually been seen by others all along. As I left the school, the setting sun cast my long shadow on the ground. My phone vibrated with a message from Leonard, my lawyer. Admission procedures are complete. Kenneth insisted on staying in a standard ward. I replied, whatever. Then I dialed my aunt's number. Auntie, about the scholarship fund, I'd like to contribute another $1 million. After hanging up, I gazed at the sky. The bitter, resentful girl from 4 years ago could finally move forward with her life. As for Lola, I could picture her slumped on the floor, clutching those cheap merchandise items. She chose idol worship while I chose knowledge. She believed in illusory exam luck while I trusted genuine hard work. Our fates were sealed 4 years ago. Director, the investment proposal from Huachuang is on your desk. Secretary Xiao Zhang stood respectfully at the office door. I nodded and continued reviewing the documents in my hand. Outside the window, the lights of Beijing CBD twinkled like a sky full of stars. In one corner of the desk were several photos: my graduation ceremony at Tsinghua University, the bell-ringing ceremony for the company's IPO, and one special group photo, a rural girl with a ponytail and me standing in front of a humble school, her holding up a university admission letter. My phone suddenly vibrated, and the screen showed an incoming call from Mr. Harrison. Sage. Mr. Harrison's voice was filled with unconcealed joy. Serena got into Peking University with a full scholarship. A faint smile touched my lips. Serena was the first girl my education fund had helped. Her parents, with their traditional preference for sons, had nearly pulled her out of school to work. That's great. I'll visit her next week, I said, flipping open my schedule. Perfect timing. I need to attend the foundation's new project launch ceremony anyway. After hanging up, I opened an encrypted folder on my computer. It contained all the materials I'd gathered over the years: evidence of Lola's obsessive fan behavior, Kenneth's medical records, screenshots of Lunair's posts in fan groups. My eyes lingered on a video, a disheveled Lola, holding up a Zane poster and screaming at the airport. Is this a mess, Sage? A formal male voice asked. This is Chaoyang District Detention Center. Your sister, Lola, has been detained for disturbing public order. She requested to contact you. I twirled the pen in my hand, its metallic surface Glinting coldly under the light, what exactly happened? This afternoon at Terminal 3 of Beijing Capital Airport, she tried to breach security to chase after some celebrity and even bit a guard. The voice on the other end paused. She seemed mentally unstable, kept screaming about Brother Zane being framed. I snapped my laptop shut with a crisp click. What's the bail amount? 5,000, but she needs someone to vouch for her. I won't post bail. My voice was as calm as if discussing the weather, but I can get her a lawyer. The detention center's fluorescent lights were harsh and uncomfortable, the smell of disinfectant mixed with some indescribable stench as I waited on a bench, next to a sobbing young girl, also here to bail out a friend who'd been chasing celebrities. Ma'am, a policewoman approached, her badge gleaming coldly on her uniform. Your sister is extremely agitated. The doctor recommends a psychiatric evaluation first. I nodded. Can I see her? The policewoman led me down a long corridor, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Lola was locked in a small interrogation room. Through the glass window, I saw her banging her head against the wall, muttering under her breath. She had gained more weight since our last meeting. Her greasy hair was matted in clumps, and the Zane fan t-shirt she wore was so filthy you could no longer tell its original color. Fresh scratches marked her face, and her fingernails were caked with black grime. Sis, she spotted me and lunged toward the door, handcuffs clanking. You're here to save me, right? They've framed me. I sat down across from her, deliberately keeping my distance to avoid the foul odor. I heard you bit a security guard. He deserved it. Lola's eyes were bloodshot, dried blood still at the corner of her mouth. How dare he stop me from seeing Zane? I took out my phone and opened the news article I had ready. Fated star Zane secretly marries fan who's a rich heiress. In the photo, Zane had his arm around a young woman's waist, beaming. Lola stared intently at the screen, then suddenly shrieked, "It's fake, all photoshopped. This was made by anti-fans. Take a look at this, too." I pulled up another video, Zane admitting at a press conference that he faked his college entrance exam scores, with his 402-point score sheet clearly visible. No, impossible. Lola shook her head frantically. Greasy strands flinging droplets of unknown liquid. Brother Zane was forced into this. They threatened him. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging deep into my flesh. Sis, you have to believe me. Please help me. Let's go confront Brother Zane. I calmly pulled my hand back, taking a disinfectant wipe from my bag to clean my wrist. Lola, do you have any idea how Mom and Dad are doing right now? She blinked blankly, as if the question had never crossed her mind. Dad had a stroke last year and now lives in a nursing home. He can't even use the bathroom on his own, I said flatly. Linnair's working at the supermarket for $2,800 a month, and she's still paying off the debts you racked up from your obsessive fan phase. Lola's face contorted briefly before her eyes regained that feverish gleam. They'll understand. Once I clear Zane's name, understand, I scoffed. Do you even know they sold the house to cover your debts? They're living in a shantytown now. So what? Lola's voice suddenly sharpened. Anything is worth it for Zane. I stood up, looking down at her with contempt. You're pathetic. You're jealous of me, she shrieked hysterically. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Zane. The policewoman rushed in at the sound and restrained her. As I turned to leave, Lola suddenly threw herself at my legs, clinging to them. Sis, don't go. Please help me. I shook her off forcefully, and she fell to the ground, the handcuffs leaving a red mark on her wrists. Lola. I stood at the doorway, looking back at her. Last time, you had this coming. Sixth, stepping out of the detention center, the harsh sunlight hit my face. I took a deep breath and dialed my lawyer. Leonard, draft a statement for me. I'm formally severing all family ties with Lola. After hanging up, I texted Mr. Harrison, could you send me a photo of Serena's acceptance letter? I'd like to feature it on the foundation's website. On the high-speed train back to Beijing, I received notice from the detention center. Lola had been involuntarily committed due to mental instability. The letter included a form requiring family signature for confirmation. I forwarded it straight to my lawyer Leonard without even looking. My phone buzzed with a photo from Mr. Harrison. Serena stood in the sunlight, holding up her Peking University acceptance letter, her smile so radiant it stung my eyes. I zoomed in on the photo, staring at the light glinting off the acceptance letter, and suddenly remembered that afternoon many years ago, the one where Lola stuffed my mouth with a smelly sock until I nearly suffocated. Outside the window, the scenery rushed by. I opened my laptop and started revising the foundation's funding plan for the next quarter. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and bright on the keyboard. The end. Story 2. In my past life, the fake heiress and I both chose beastkin husbands. The frail fake heiress, spoiled by everyone, unhesitatingly selected the mighty fire phoenix, while I was left with the lowly Spirit fox, but unexpectedly, the phoenix failed its rebirth cycle, degenerated into a common crow, and was disowned, dragging the fake heiress down into hardship. The spirit fox I chose turned out to be gentle and caring, awakening a second talent, cultivating 9 tails, and becoming the leader of the fox clan, and I became the revered matriarch of the fox clan. The fake heiress, consumed by jealousy over my better life, stabbed me hundreds of times during my coronation. When I opened my eyes again, we had all returned to the day of choosing beast companions. This time, the fake heiress excitedly hugged the spirit fox. The fox clan matriarch position is mine this lifetime. I tried my best to hold back my laughter. How did he think a lowly spirit fox could undergo a second awakening, or cultivate 9 tails? The moment I saw Lilith clutching the spirit fox tightly, I knew she had also been reborn. Our family has always maintained the tradition of orc alliances to strengthen our lineage. Coming from humble origins, only an orc marriage could open doors to high society. Though I'm the true heiress reclaimed later in life, I could never rival Lilith's privileged upbringing. Even in choosing an orc mate, I'm left with her cast-offs in this lifetime. Watching her choose the spirit fox left both mother and father stunned. Everyone knew spirit foxes were the most useless of their kind, weak in magic, promiscuous by nature, with nothing but good looks to their name. Meanwhile, the fire phoenix stood noble and mighty, fiercely loyal, ranking among the finest of beastkin. Mother and father frantically shot meaningful glances at Lu Zizhou, yet Lilith clung stubbornly to the spirit fox, her gaze at me burning with madness as she whispered in my ear, Leona, the matriarch's throne will be mine in this life. Jax, the spirit fox, seemed to have never experienced such favoritism before. His face gradually flushed as he gently licked her face in front of everyone. His tail wrapped around her. I just smiled, saying nothing. Kairos, the fire phoenix, watched as the woman who had just been so enthusiastic about him chose a beastman far inferior to him. The next second, his face immediately darkened. He turned to me and said, Miss Gu, you will be my wife from now on. In her previous life, Lilith had unhesitatingly chosen Kairos, believing that with his powerful spiritual energy, he was destined to be the future leader of the Phoenix clan. But to her surprise, Kairos not only ignored and neglected her, but also failed a cultivation attempt. During a nirvana, transforming into an ordinary shin bird with no spiritual power whatsoever, the entire family was ashamed of him, banishing both Kairos and Lilith from the Phoenix clan. Seeing her life of luxury vanish, Lilith tearfully demanded to break off her engagement with Kairos. However, breaching the contract meant facing the heavenly lightning punishment. 18 bolts of divine lightning struck Lilith, completely crippling her. When she finally returned to the Lu family, battered and bruised, she discovered that Jax, the spirit fox I had chosen, had undergone a second awakening, cultivated 9 tails, and become the only 9-tailed fox in existence. The entire fox clan was proud of him and elected him as their leader. Unlike other foxes, he wasn't a philanderer at all. Instead, he was incredibly devoted to me. Not only was I his only wife, but he also showered me with all the world's most precious jewels. Everyone said I was incredibly lucky to become the esteemed matriarch of the Fox clan. Even my own parents, who had always treated me like dirt, started doting on me, claiming they wanted to make up for the 18 years of lost affection and asking me to help elevate the Lu family. This filled Lilith with bitter envy. Already paranoid about me stealing his affection, she'd been making my life miserable at every turn. Seeing me thrive beyond her reach now twisted her soul beyond recognition. On my coronation day, she lunged at me with hundreds of vicious stabs, each strike meticulously aimed to kill. Agony racked my body as Lilith's deranged shrieks pierced my ears. Leona, I knew you came to steal everything from me. You should have never returned. Die. Just die. Her face contorted grotesquely, eyes burning crimson with hatred that consumed me like wildfire. This time, Lilith chose Jax first. Seeing her triumphant expression, I lowered my head and smiled. I also breathed a sigh of relief. She had no idea that the spirit fox grew its 9 tails by practicing dark magic, and the catalyst for it was the heart's blood of a wife. Jax imprisoned me in a sunless basement, draining my blood daily for his consumption, all to ensure I'd keep donating. His devotion was nothing but a facade. He kept countless fair-skinned, beautiful girls for his pleasure. The moment he was displeased, he'd skin them alive, dismember them, and devour them. Living under such bloody torment day in and day out, my mind was already on the verge of collapse, and Lilith, of all people, actually wants to trade places with me for a life like this. I just wonder if he can handle Jax's tender loving care. After Jax and Kairos left, my parents, with grim expressions, walked up to me. My father raised his hand and slapped me hard. You wicked girl, how dare you steal your sister's husband? My face was knocked to the side, and blood welled up at the corner of my mouth. Meanwhile, mother took Lilith aside, holding her hand while offering earnest advice. Father shot me a glare before approaching Lilith, coaxing patiently, Lilith, Fanny will lead the Phoenix clan someday, why settle for that low-born fox? A smirk playing on her lips, Lilith whispered something to our parents that instantly brightened their expressions, beaming. They urged her to prepare for her wedding with Jax, having finally achieved her heart's desire. Lilith sauntered over triumphantly and sneered, Leona, aren't you going to thank me for leaving Kairos to you? I watched him coldly, though. Inwardly I was overjoyed. Laugh while you can. Let's see if you'll still be smiling when they lock you in the basement to drain your blood. The wedding day arrived soon enough. Fearing Lilith might suffer hardships, our parents spent most of their fortune on her lavish dresses and jewels. As for me, nothing but the barest necessities. Lilith, beaming with excitement, was dressed in a meticulously tailored red wedding gown. Catching sight of my rather humble attire, she let out a scoff, her face contorted with disdain. Leona, she sneered, all the glory and riches in this life are mine, you'll forever be beneath my heel. I simply nodded, adopting a you're absolutely right expression, but in my head, I was thinking Jax is a womanizer, he'll probably spend all her money on other women soon. A long convoy of luxury cars appeared at the entrance. Lilith, thinking they were there for her, adjusted her dress and eagerly started to get into a car, but she was quickly stopped. The bodyguard, with a serious expression, told her, we're here to pick up Miss Leona. Humiliated, Lilith flushed crimson and shot me a venomous glare, her eyes darkening with malice. I deliberately ignored her stare and boarded the car amid the crowd's fanfare. Rumor had it that without Spirit Fox's money, Lilith had to trek home on foot, wearing through her leather shoes and raising bloody blisters on her feet. When the car pulled up at Kairos' residence, I was utterly stunned. I knew the Phone clan was wealthy, but never imagined them to be this rich. The Fanny residence in particular was a breathtaking sight, a magnificent castle sprawling nearly 10 times the size of the Liu family estate. The entire fortress was literally built with gold and gemstones. Before I could recover from the shock, I was ushered into the bridal chamber. Unlike our previous life, Kairos wasn't in the bridal chamber this time. I was getting a bit hungry waiting, so I just started helping myself to the food on the table. It wasn't until I was quite full that I noticed Kairos had been standing in the doorway, watching me the whole time too. I awkwardly scratched my head, stammering, Do you want some? Kairos tilted his head, blinking at me with wide-eyed innocence like a clueless little bird. Just when I thought he couldn't speak, he suddenly said, You're different. His words came out of nowhere, leaving me utterly confused. As I was about to press further, Kairos turned to leave, tossing over his shoulder, I've got things to do, sleep alone tonight. That reminds me of our past life. When Lilith saw Kairos refusing to consummate their marriage, she actually had the audacity to try forcing herself on him, only to be struck down by Kairos with a single palm strike, leaving her bedridden with severe injuries for over a week. After word spread throughout the Phoenix clan, Lilith became the laughingstock of the entire tribe, met with scornful glances wherever she went. Jax and I, on the other hand, were deeply in love. He was so considerate and gentle, always trying his best to bring me rare and precious jewelry. Even with his limited powers, it made Lilith incredibly envious. I suspect that's when Lilith started to resent me. After a long day, and now with a full stomach, I was feeling quite sleepy. I lay down on my king-sized bed and quickly drifted off to sleep. Half asleep, I suddenly felt something warm nestling into my arms, but I was too exhausted and soon drifted back into deep slumber. The next morning, before even opening my eyes, I felt something solid against me, like a wall. My eyes fluttered open to the sight of Kairos' bronze chest. My face flushed crimson, yet I remained nestled carefully in his arms without pushing away. When I awoke again, Kairos had already left. Bleary-eyed, I climbed out of bed to find fresh clothes laid out for me on the nightstand. There was also a black card on top, with a note attached, Spend it, don't disgrace the Phoenix clan. A warmth spread through her heart. In her past life, Lilith would often complained to her family that Kairos was obsessed with cultivation, only giving her money and showing her no affection whatsoever. I could tell Kairos was all bark and no bite. Just from that one meeting, he could tell I wasn't doing well at home. It's clear how thoughtful and considerate he is. No sooner had I put away the black card than a knock came at the door. Madam, breakfast is ready. Heading downstairs, I was surprised to find Kairos still there, lounging against the chair with his long limbs draped carelessly, exuding effortless nonchalance. His gaze traveled over me as I descended. Finally awake, he drawled. I gave a slight nod, though my mind was elsewhere. How could Kairos, the strongest of the Phoenix clan and heir apparent, possibly fail his rebirth? Lilith killed me in my past life, so I never learned what happened afterward, but I do know Jax's ambitions go beyond leading the Fox clan. He wants to rule the entire orc world and reign supreme, given his mastery of dark Magic, only Kairos Reborn could possibly defeat him. Watching the man eat with deliberate slowness, I couldn't help but speak up. Honey, you guys, what did you just call me? Before I could finish, Kairos, whom I'd just called honey, cut me off with a visible tremor, lifting his gaze to meet mine. His ears flushed crimson in an instant, the blush spreading rapidly down to their very tips. Puzzled, I murmured softly, "Can't I call you darling?" Kairos pressed his lips together without denying it, his voice turning hoarse. "What were you about to ask earlier?" I straightened up with obedient sincerity. "How did the Phoenix clan achieve Nirvana rebirth?" To my surprise, Fonglin abruptly stood up, his face flushing crimson as he shot me a sideways glare, suggesting such indecency in broad daylight. How shameless, isn't it? I just asked a question. How did that become public indecency and shamelessness, and why is he blushing? Watching him rush away, I was a bit bewildered. But I discovered Fonglin wasn't the cold-hearted person rumors made him out to be. He actually had a rather endearing side. Pulling out the black card Kairos gave me, my hands trembled with excitement. I'd been wandering since childhood, never knowing where my next meal would come from. Just when I finally came of age, they dragged me back home only for Lilith to make my life miserable at every turn. Now that I finally have money, I'm definitely going to splurge. But just as I reached the mall entrance, I ran into Lilith and that man I utterly despise, Jax. I didn't want to interact with them, so I was about to slip past and go elsewhere. To my surprise, Lilith strutted over arm in arm with Jax, her face dripping with mockery. Well, if it isn't my dear sister, all alone on your second day of marriage. Where's that husband of yours? She clung to Jax like a limpet, radiating sickening sweetness. I forced a smile, my trembling lips betraying me. Kairos is swamped with work, no time for little old me, Lilith snorted before turning to Jax with a simper. Poor sis, not like us. Jax can't bear to be apart from me for a second. Jax chuckled, his gaze softening as he looked at her, then he affectionately kissed the top of her head, but all I felt was dread. Of course, Jax couldn't leave her. To Jax, she was now nothing more than a walking blood bank, a living catalyst for his cultivation. How could he possibly leave Lilith alone? But Lilith was completely oblivious to her situation, instead continuing to show off to me. Sister, I can't talk anymore. Jax insists on taking me to buy jewelry, so you just shop by yourself. Watching the two of them head towards the most expensive luxury counter in the mall, I sighed. Does Jax really have that much money? Just as I was leaving the mall, laden with shopping bags, Lilith's eyes were practically green with envy. All she had on her wrist was a simple silver bracelet. She stormed past me, shoving my shoulder roughly. Leona, Kairos just has a bit of dirty money, you won't be gloating for long. As she said this, she didn't notice the fleeting, sinister glint in Jax's eyes. As the lowest-ranked spirit fox, Jax's biggest struggle was always money. Wasn't she just rubbing salt in Jax's wounds with that remark? I smirked inwardly. It seemed like Lilith's days of bliss were numbered. When I returned home, Kairos was still practicing his cultivation in the courtyard. His muscular upper body was covered in a fine sheen of sweat, my face flushed, and I quietly sat beside him, not daring to disturb him. When he finally finished and started putting on his clothes, I rushed over and handed him a brand new towel. Wipe yourself off, or you'll catch a cold. Kairos hesitated for a split second before reaching out to take it. I noticed Kairos treated me differently, without the same disdain he'd shown Lilith in our past life. It occurred to me that the ceremonial homecoming, when a married daughter visits her parents, was just 2 days away. In our previous incarnation, Lilith had made that journey alone. Without Kairos by her side, she was mocked for ages because of it. To avoid making the same mistake again, after a moment's thought, I still put on what I hoped was a sweet smile and asked, "Honey, the day after tomorrow is my first visit back home. Would you be able to come with me?" Kairos didn't respond. Just as my face was starting to ache from smiling and I was about to give up, everything suddenly went black. Kairos had thrown a towel over my head. His stern, cold voice echoed in my ears, "Say it again." The thick scent of hormones mixed with sandalwood from the towel wafted into my nostrils, making my face flush crimson. Soon it was time for the traditional post-wedding visit to my parents' home. I got out of bed bright and early. Kairos liked to sleep late, so I usually woke up in his arms, but today, Kairos was already gone. It really seems like he doesn't want to go, suppressing the bitterness in my heart. I tried my best to comfort myself. At the very least, he's been good enough to me. I shouldn't be greedy. By the time I rushed home, Lilith and Jax have arrived. They're making out shamelessly on the living room couch, with Jax's hands already wandering under Lilith's clothes. Noticing I'm alone, Lilith giggles behind her hand. "All by yourself again, sis? Kairos can't possibly be that busy. Rumor has it he's never spent a single evening with you." Upon hearing this and seeing that I had indeed come alone, my parents' faces immediately darkened. "Why are you back alone? You're a Disgrace to the family. Even though I was used to their preferential treatment, my heart still ached. Just as I was about to speak, I was pulled into a broad, warm embrace, and a magnetic voice spoke. Why didn't you wait for me? In front of everyone, Kairos gently pulled me into a close embrace. Lilith's face immediately soured, as if sensing I had been wronged. Kairos scanned the room and scoffed. Is this how my wife gets treated around here? His presence was so overwhelming that it left everyone speechless. It wasn't until my father stepped in, humbly apologizing to me, that he finally toned it down a notch. Meanwhile, Lilith glared at me with pure hatred, as if she'd lost her mind. After dinner, I headed to the restroom. The moment I stepped out, Lilith shoved me against the wall, her eyes burning with jealousy. What kind of love potion did you slip Kairos? Why would he escort you back? Playing innocent. I replied, he's my husband, isn't it natural for him to walk me home? Lilith's face twisted in rage, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. Impossible, he's never accompanied me anywhere. Everyone knows he avoids women. You scheming bitch, you must have drugged him. Maintaining my clueless act, I countered, are you delusional? He's not your husband, why would he escort you? But those words completely enraged her. She actually raised her hand to slap me before the blow could land. A piercing scream rang in my ears. Kairos had appeared behind her without warning and brutally snapped her arm. Everyone rushed over upon hearing her piercing scream. She writhed on the ground, clutching her arm in agony, tears mingling with cold sweat on her face. Kairos pulled me into his embrace, his expression icy as he glared at Lilith. Consider this a warning. If I ever catch you disrespecting or laying hands on my wife again, losing an arm will be the least of your worries. The crowd watched Kairos with fearful apprehension, not daring to utter a word. Lilith, her face ashen, clung to Jax's leg, wailing, honey, make them pay, they're bullying me. But Jax himself was trembling with fear at that moment, in no position to help her. In his previous life, before Jax cultivated his 9 tails, he was an absolute good-for-nothing. Whenever he got picked on outside, he'd just come home and torment me and his mistress. I saw the murderous intent in Jax's eyes at that moment, for it looks like he's about to take Lilith's heart's blood. My schadenfreude didn't last long before I started to worry. Someone has to stop him, but how can Kairos achieve nirvana? I kept thinking about it all the way home. I didn't even hear Kairos talking to me, not until he pinched my face, looking displeased, and gritted through his teeth. Are you thinking about that pretty boy? Do you regret choosing me? I looked up, my eyes completely bewildered. No, I was just thinking about your rebirth. The moment I said it, Kairos' face flushed crimson, his eyes filled with emotions I couldn't decipher. Completely baffled, I started to get up, only to be swept off my feet by Kairos and tossed onto the bed, our bodies pressed flush together as his breath ghosted my ear, voice thick with restraint. You love me that much? Constantly thinking about my rebirth, his breath brushed against the delicate skin of my ear, sending shivers cascading down my spine. I shook my head weakly, completely bewildered by his words, but soon enough, I'd learned firsthand what a phoenix is. Rebirth truly meant escape was impossible now. He seized my wrist, interlacing our fingers before pinning both hands above my head. The scorching flames licked at my trembling body as if I'd melt any second. Sobbing and begging to escape, I only heard Kairos murmur in my ear, be good. The next morning, as I rubbed my sore waist while getting up, Kairos watched me with amused eyes crinkled in a smile seized by sudden defiance. I grabbed his hand and sank my teeth into it. Instead of getting angry, Kairos pulled me into his arms and teased in a suggestive tone, have you turned into a puppy beast man now? My face flushed crimson at this thought. I glanced up at Kairos. Surely he wouldn't act like last time again. Kairos caught my gaze, lifting me onto his lap with an amused tone. You got all my firsts, you're only allowed this one beast man or else. His fingers trailed up my neck, the icy touch making me shiver as I clung to his arm coquettishly. How could I ever betray you? Darling, my words pleased Kairos. He narrowed his eyes and gently kissed my forehead, his demeanor completely transformed from his previous aloofness. Even after he left, I remained in a daze, barely processing what had happened. A week later at the Orc Assembly, I crossed paths with Lilith again. She looked ghastly pale with sunken eyes and an emaciated frame, all traces of her former arrogance gone. Her broken arm hung in a sling across her chest. Lilith's eyes blazed with terrifying hatred when she saw me, as if she wanted to tear me limb from limb. I knew it. Jax had made his move on him. I deliberately sent Kairos away and headed toward a less crowded area. True to form, Lilith staggered after me. She lurched forward with a vicious snarl, hissing, Lyona, did you also get reborn? Did you already know what Jax was planning? I smiled sweetly at her and said meekly, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Jax is your husband. How would I know what he's up to? As I spoke, I bit my lip pitifully and cast my eyes downward with an Innocent look, little sister, are you regretting choosing Jax? I know my Kairos is wonderful, but Jax isn't bad either. Don't you think he'd be hurt by this? Lilith gritted her teeth in fury, just as she was about to lunge at me. A voice dripping with gloom came from behind. Lilith, is what she said true? Do you regret it? Jax stood behind her, his dark pupils like still, fathomless pools, chillingly cold. Lilith practically shrieked as she jumped up, clutching my hand desperately. Leona, take me back with you, I beg you. I'll die if you don't. I watched her coldly, prying her fingers off mine one by one. The light faded from Lilith's eyes until it completely vanished. She was taken away by Jax in despair. 5. Even as she left, she was still hurling insults at me. Kairos came over and pulled me into a concerned embrace, asking, "What's wrong? Did someone hurt you again?" I shook my head. Memories from my past life suddenly flooded my mind. After our marriage, Jax treated me wonderfully, just as I was basking in that happiness, he locked me in the basement, draining my heart's blood day after day. The agony was bone-deep, soul-rending. When he's in a bad mood, he'd even physically abuse me, but in public, he'd put on this act of us being the perfect couple. After some thought, I ended up telling Kairos about Jax, including the dark arts he's practicing and his plans to unite the orcs. Kairos' face darkened as he demanded sternly, "Where did you hear that?" I lied through my teeth. Lilith just told me. After a moment's thought, Kairos pinched my cheek and said, "Leave the rest to me. I've got this under control." I nodded, showing absolute faith in his capabilities. The next day, my parents summoned me home, but I never imagined they could be so shameless, actually expecting me to give Kairos to Lilith. Lilith was sobbing pitifully in mother's arms while father stood by, murmuring comforts. Their eyes turned vicious when they spotted me, demanding I kneel before them. I nearly laughed at their audacity. Where did they get the nerve? Lilith shot me a smug look before putting on a pitiful tone. "Mom, Dad, don't be too hard on her. Let's talk this through." Father scowled and snapped. "Talk what through? She stole what was rightfully yours." Hearing this, I scoffed and retorted, "What exactly have I stolen from her? Ever since I was recognized as part of this family, hasn't Lilith always had first pick of everything? How does that make me the thief?" Father, exposed and humiliated, flew into a rage and moved to strike me. "Ungrateful wretch, your sister was the one who yielded her marriage arrangement to you." But before his hand could land, a magical force repelled him, sending him crashing heavily to the ground. He stared at me in shock. A crimson glow radiated from my body, as if encased in some protective barrier. Knowing I was heading home, Kairos had given me one of his feathers for protection, worried I might get bullied, and the moment this barrier activated, he come rushing to my side. Just as expected, a golden light flashed the next instant, and Kairos materialized before the crowd. At the sight of Kairos, they cowered with bowed heads, not daring to even breathe. Lilith in particular trembled violently, still haunted by the trauma of her severed hand from last time. I immediately threw myself into Kairos' arms, tears welling up as I cried, "Darling, they want me to trade you to Lilith. How could I ever live without you when I love you so much?" Kairos' gaze turned icy, his tightly pressed lips barely containing his fury, though a telltale flush crept up his ears. "It seems the lesson we taught you last time wasn't enough. Very well, the Liu family has outlived its usefulness." The moment these words were spoken, our parents collapsed to their knees. Their scheme to marry us off to beast folk was always about expanding the family's influence. But who would have thought that crossing Kairos would cost us our home? My mother completely dropped her ferocious demeanor, crawling over to clutch my ankles as she pleaded, "Leona, you're our flesh and blood. Beg Kairos for mercy. He can't do this to us." She wept uncontrollably, yet I felt not an ounce of sympathy. My heart completely turned to ice the moment they started shamelessly favoring Lilith. With a bitter smile, I shook off my mother's hand. "Have you forgotten, Mom? You were the ones who said Lilith was your only real daughter. Why don't you go beg her yourself?" When money was at stake, all pretense of affection vanished as they started cursing. "That useless Jack she married is nothing but a leech, and you, Lilith, you wretched little bitch, this is all your fault." With that, she moved to strike Lilith. Lilith wasn't one to back down either. She grabbed her mother's hair and brawled while shouting, "What are you so smug about, Leona? Kairos is just a worthless bird who'll never rise from ashes. When Jax completes his training, you'll pay for this." Watching their family tear into each other, I frowned and led Kairos away. True to his word, Kairos, that very night, the family declared bankruptcy. Their parents' house was auctioned off to pay the debts. With nowhere else to go, they shamelessly moved into Lilith's place. 6. The thought of that demon Jax, a smirk played on my lips. Looks like their family's in for some trouble this lifetime. I'm finally not alone anymore. After my evening shower, Kairos lay unusually still on the bed, gazing at Kairos' striking features. My heart fluttered unexpectedly, leaned in carefully and planted a kiss on him. The next second, I found myself staring into his smiling eyes. He was pretending to be asleep all along, blushing. I gave him a playful nip. He nuzzled his head against me affectionately, like a little bird craving its owner's touch. I was lying on his chest when he suddenly flipped me beneath him, with his scorching breath grazing my neck. He murmured, "I'm nearing my rebirth. Just a few more times." My entire body burned with heat, oxygen slowly draining. My head grew dizzy as his scent enveloped me. By dawn the next morning, Kairos had vanished, stepping into the backyard. The sight before me struck me speechless. Amidst raging flames, a phoenix danced gracefully, its plumage shimmering with golden radiance. As the flames grew fiercer, the phoenix's silhouette gradually blurred within the fiery glow. At the precise moment it merged with the flames, a blinding radiance erupted, and when the light faded, a reborn phoenix stood in its place. Kairos lifted his head and approached me, then suddenly shrank into a crimson-feathered bird. He spread his wings and alighted upon me. I gently cradled him in my hands, stroking his silken feathers. The lingering anxiety since rebirth finally eased. At last, Kairos completed his phoenix rebirth. When the Phoenix clan learned the news, their elders immediately passed the leadership to Kairos and held a grand celebration in his honor. Meanwhile, there was complete radio silence from Jax's side. Just as expected, Jax showed up with Lilith at the celebration. I sneered inwardly, knowing Kairos had successfully been reborn from the ashes. The couple must be getting desperate. Lilith grew paler by the minute, clearly from severe blood loss. Jax remained his usual self, putting on an affectionate display with Lilith in front of everyone, except Lilith couldn't stop trembling whenever he got close. Spotting me, Lilith approached under the pretense of a toast, her face etched with despair. Why? How did Kairos succeed in rebirth? Why hasn't Jax cultivated his ninth tail yet? In our past lives, Jax had already grown his ninth tail by this time, but in this lifetime, Lilith's blood was nearly drained dry. I forget 9 tails. Jax hadn't even managed to cultivate a single one. I shrugged with an innocent look. How would I know? I wasn't lying to Lilith. I have no idea why Jax didn't transform into a 9-tailed fox. Lilith left unwillingly, her eyes burning with resentment as she departed. I knew she wouldn't let this go so easily. I gave her a well-meaning warning. Lilith, take my advice and leave Jax as soon as possible, otherwise, you won't even see your death coming. Too bad Lilith has the brains of a doorknob. She shot me a venomous glare. Jax is about to cultivate his 9th tail, and you want me to give up now? Dream on. When Jax becomes a 9-tailed fox, I'll make sure you die 1,000 deaths. Seeing her stubborn refusal to see reason, I sighed. Ever since my rebirth, I never gave her a second thought. A moron like her would have ended up badly even without my interference. Seeing her still acting so arrogant, I sneered. Keep dreaming, princess. Kairos was exchanging pleasantries with the Phoenix clan elders. Just as I was about to approach him, Jax suddenly appeared. He stared at me, that familiar predatory gaze making me feel as if I'd been transported back to a past life. I spat at him in disgust, but instead of getting angry, he burst out laughing. Lyona, I've finally found you. His words sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could even process what he meant, he inexplicably turned and walked away. That evening, I told Kairos about what had happened. With a grim expression, Kairos placed a golden feather in my palm. The elders are sending me away for a few days. This is my heart wing. It'll protect you in times of danger. Staring at the glimmering feather, I blurted, but didn't you already give me a feather before? That was just an ordinary feather enchanted with magic. The heart wing's different. It carries half my power. With this, no one can lay a finger on you. Seeing Kairos' earnest expression, my nose tingled and tears began streaming down uncontrollably. Sniff, you're just too good to me. Kairos gently kissed away my tears, murmuring softly, you're my wife. This is what I do. Gazing into Kairos' tender eyes, my heart melted. What's coming will come. Just days after Kairos left, Jax showed up at my door with a battered Lilith in tow. 7, though I had my guard up constantly around those two, they still managed to corner me in the street. Not wanting to cause a scene, and curious about their intentions, I decided to play along. I pretended to follow them home. The moment I stepped inside, a pungent metallic stench assaulted my senses. 2 corpses lay sprawled across the living room floor. I leaned against the wall and vomited. If I had to guess, those 2 people were my biological parents. Seeing me in such a sorry state, Lilith clapped her hands and laughed. Those 2 bastards got what they deserved. Serves them right for treating me like that. Jax slapped her across the face, disgusted by her deranged behavior. What's all this racket about? The slap was delivered with full force, sending Lilith sprawling to the ground. Trembling with fear, Jax then turned to me, his eyes filled with a morbid possessiveness. Lyona, I remember everything now. You are my true wife. Only you can transform me into a real 9-tailed fox. Jax has been reborn too. A chill ran down my spine as I realized this, but as soon as my hand touched the heart-protecting feather in my pocket, I quickly calmed down. I looked at him, hatred welling up in my eyes. So, what do you want? I'm no longer your wife, and my blood is useless to you. Hearing this, Jax let out a sinister hiss of laughter. Leona, your naivety is truly adorable. As a pure constitution 1 in 10 million, you're the true key to my cultivation. His words seeped into my nerves like venom, the real catalyst for his cultivation wasn't his wife's blood after all, but mine. Jax edged closer to me, a triumphant smile playing on his lips. Leona, rest assured, once I rule the beastmen, you will be my one and only wife. I will treat you well. I clutched the heart-protecting shan in my pocket and said coldly, Kairos will be here any minute. I advise you not to make any rash moves. Jax burst out laughing. Once I become a nine-tailed fox, 10 Kairoses wouldn't be a match for me. Lilith, who had also risen from the ground, looked deranged. Leona, even if you're reborn, you'll still be beneath my heel. Seeing them, a thought sparked in my mind. I spoke up. Jax, giving you my heart's blood isn't out of the question, but I'm a jealous person. Didn't you say you'd only have me as your wife? Then dissolve your marriage with Lilith right now. Jax stopped, his gaze fixed intently on Lilith. Lilith's eyes widened in horror as she looked at Jax, crying out, No, I've done so much for you. How could you do this to me? How absurd that she'd try reasoning with this cold-blooded monster. Pity Jax would never turn down such a request. As their marital bond dissolved, the penalty clause activated. A thunderbolt tore through the roof to strike Lilith. In her past life, only her robust health and the trove of elixirs stolen from Kairos saved her from being fried alive. In this life, she had been tormented beyond recognition by Jax, utterly defenseless against the swift lightning. Soon, Lilith was reduced to ashes amidst her screams. Before she died, she cried out in defiance, Why is it still like this even after I've been reborn? She would never get the chance to know the answer. With Lilith dealt with, now it's time to face my true nemesis. Clutching the heart flare in my hand, I whispered to Jax, Come take my blood. Jax approached me with his knife, completely unaware of my trap. The moment he stepped within reach, the heart-protecting shan in my hand pulsed with a blinding light, sending Jax flying and reverting him to his fox form. He spat out a mouthful of blood, staring in disbelief at the heart-protecting shan in my hand. How is this possible? This is a phoenix's life-saving treasure. How could Kairos have given it to you? I let out a cold laugh. I watched him coldly, slowly approaching as I picked up the knife from the ground. You heartless beast, what makes you think you deserve to be called human? As Jack saw the blade in my hand, fear finally gripped him. But where could a fox possibly run? I hoisted him up. Effortlessly, he began pleading, Please, spare me. I admit I was wrong. I offered a gentle smile. Don't worry, I'll make good use of your hide. I wouldn't dare kill a person, but a fox, why not? With a soft thud, Jax drew his last breath, a flash of golden light, and Kairos appeared before me, feeling a bit guilty. I hid the knife behind my back, not wanting him to see this bloody side of me. Kairos simply stroked my head, his eyes gentle. You did well. I completely relaxed, throwing myself into his arms and sobbing uncontrollably. The karmic entanglement of 2 lifetimes had finally come to an end. Hand in hand with Kairos, we walked down the path toward home. I knew from then on, I'd never have to walk in fear again.